Chapter 1438, Self-Righteous, 2, It's true. It was Elder Bang who gave the token to Xiao Lan. In front of everyone, Elder Lang had to betray Yin Bang in order to clear his name. He didn't want to be implicated by Yin Bang because of this. He could tell that these women were not to be trifled with. He had to remember to stay far away from women in the future. Patriarch Yin, didn't Miss Xiao Lan say that Elder Lang and Yin Bang weren't the only ones? For the sake of fairness, I think you should also ask the other elders. Right, the third elder's opinion is also very important. Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she reminded him. Miss Leng's words are reasonable. Yin Ping nodded in agreement, and then his eyes turned to the few elders who had been pointed out by Xiao Lan. Acting Patriarch, what Elder Lang said is true. The token was indeed given to Xiao Lan by Elder Bang. We can be witnesses. The few of them were so frightened that they hurriedly said in unison. Why didn't you tell the truth before? A dignified elder actually allowed others to wrongly accuse an innocent woman. Is this something an elder should do? Leng Ruoxue asked with a cold smile. It is. Why didn't you say so earlier? You even caused me to be wrongly accused. Xiao Lan questioned Leng Ruoxue after hearing her words. We are also trying to protect Elder Bang's reputation. The elders looked at each other and whispered. From that look, they had already made the decision to give up on Yin Bang. Otherwise, they would not be able to protect themselves. In order to protect Elder Bang's reputation, you want someone else to be the scapegoat? Isn't your behavior really chilling? If the entire Yin family knew that there was such a scum among their elders who could betray others at any time for the sake of their reputation, I wonder if they would still respect you as they always did? Leng Ruoxue's words were like a sharp knife cutting into their bodies, causing a chill to rise in their hearts. At this moment, the third elder, who had been angered to the point of being half dead, had actually closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. Uncle. You have to uphold justice for me. They actually dared to humiliate me like this. I don't want to live anymore. Leng Ruoxue's words gave Xiao Lan a huge inspiration, so she immediately knelt in front of Yin Ping and started crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain. You get up. Don't embarrass yourself here. Yin Ping looked at Xiao Lan with some disgust, sigh. Why did he think that Xiao Lan was obedient and sensible in the past? He had really misjudged her. This must be Xiao Lan's true face. Xiao Lan could hear the displeasure in Yin Ping's voice. She sobbed as she stood up from the ground, not daring to say anything else. She knew that she had already provoked her uncle's hatred. Ai. Her many years of planning had been destroyed in a day, and it was all that damned woman Leng Ruoxue's fault. She hated her in her heart, but now was not the time to be angry with Leng Ruoxue. She was still counting on Leng Ruoxue to help her deal with Yin Bang and the others. Seeing that the elders did not speak, Xiao Lan seemed to have stopped. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes turned towards Yin Ping and said indifferently, Clan Head Yin, it should be clear that Miss Xiao Lan didn't steal Elder Bang's medallion, but was given to her by Elder Bang. Does anyone have any objections? You can bring it up now. Even though Leng Ruoxue's words were directed at Yin Ping, she was asking all the elders present. At this moment, none of the elders dared to speak. I have no objections. Yin Ping said, holding back his laughter. He was full of praise in his heart. This Leng Ruoxue was really smart and ruthless. With just a few words, she had actually helped Xiao Lan clear her suspicion of stealing the token. However, would she be so kind? Or did she have another move? Yin Ping was looking forward to Leng Ruoxue's next performance because he didn't believe that Leng Ruoxue would be so kind as to help Xiao Lan. One must know that ever since they had sat here, Leng Ruoxue had almost never mentioned the two servant girls who served her. He remembered very clearly that Leng Ruoxue had requested to attend their elders' meeting because of those two servant girls. If any of you have a different opinion, you can raise it now. Otherwise, once the matter is settled, there will be no room for turning back. Following that, Yin Ping reminded the elders. Acting Patriarch, I have no objections. An elder spoke first. We don't have any either. After most of the elders expressed their opinions, the elders who were closer to Yin Bang also quickly followed. Does third elder have any objections? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously when she saw that third elder had yet to speak. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Yin Ping's forehead started to drip with cold sweat. He couldn't understand why Leng Ruoxue would have her eyes on third elder. Ai. Poor third elder. You're on your own. You've taken my seat, so you're the third elder, so you don't need to ask me. The third elder, who was pretending to be asleep, said in a bad mood. However, as soon as he said this, all the elders' foreheads were filled with black lines, and they all sighed in their hearts at the same time. It looked like the third elder had gone mad with anger. To actually say such words. Did this sound like something a normal person would say? Don't tell me that whoever takes your position will be the third elder. Then if someone sat in the position of great elder, wouldn't he also become a great elder? Since third elder is so modest, then I will not refuse. Leng Ruoxue laughed and replied without any trace of politeness. You're welcome. The third elder suddenly opened his eyes and shouted while suppressing his anger. The first three elders are so angry. Anger is harmful to the body, especially at your age, you have to take care of your health. Leng Ruoxue emphasized the word front, angering third elder so much that he couldn't speak. He could only sit on the chair and stare. If looks could kill, Leng Ruoxue would have died 1,000 times over. When the other elders heard Leng Ruoxue's words, they immediately raised her to the level of an idol. What was this woman's background? She actually dared to speak to third elder in such a manner and even drove the usually calm third elder mad. Otherwise, third elder wouldn't have said that she was the third elder. One should know that the position of an elder wasn't just for anyone. Other than having strong abilities, one had to make contributions to the family or have an important position and prestige in the family. In short, someone like Leng Ruoxue, who had an unknown background, had to have a strong background. A woman with an unknown identity was definitely not qualified to become an elder, even if she was just an ordinary elder. Chapter 1439, Self-Righteous, 3, Cough Cough. Yin Ping saw that the atmosphere was a little stiff and coughed lightly twice, pulling the elders' minds back. Clan head Yin Dai, the elders have no objections. You can decide how to deal with this matter. Leng Ruoxue chuckled in a good mood. Her participation in the elders' meeting this time was not in vain. Not only did she get the position of third elder for no reason, but she also took the opportunity to deal with Xiao Lan and Yin Bang, the two villains who colluded with each other. Her hard work in acting was not in vain. Since the elders have no objections, I will now announce my decision on Yin Bang. First, remove Elder Yin Bang from his position and inform the entire clan. Second, banish the entire Yin Bang clan to Flowing Wind Valley, never to return to the main city. If there are no objections, then I will announce these two decisions on behalf of the Patriarch and the Elder Council. Yin Ping looked at the elders present and said, Master. Yin Bang only lent the token to Xiao Lan. Isn't this punishment a bit heavy? An elder who had a good relationship with Yin Bang looked at Yin Ping's expression and said carefully. Heavy? What was Yin Bang's purpose in lending out the token? Don't you know how serious the consequences are? Yin Ping asked coldly. He didn't believe that these elders, who shared the same pants as Yin Bang, didn't know what Yin Bang's goal was and what Xiao Lan had done. This was the best opportunity to get rid of Yin Bang, so he would not let it go. This time, Yin Bang could forget about turning the tables. Substitute Patriarch Yin, there's no need for you to be so angry. I'm sure many of the elders present don't know what kind of consequences Elder Bang's token has caused. Why don't you order someone to bring the consequences in? Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. Good. Bring in the grapes and lotus seeds. Yin Ping nodded his head and ordered the guards beside him. The guards received the orders of the acting family head and soon carried 2 stretchers into the meeting hall. The elders who were sitting looked at the 2 bloody women on the stretchers, whose faces could not be seen, and were shocked. Ugh! Were these two the grape and lotus seed that the acting family head had mentioned? How did he end up like this? Among those present, other than a portion of the elders who understood the truth, many of the elders were confused. Previously, they had heard from Ling Ruoxue and the others that Xiao Lan had tortured the two maidservants of the Yin family. However, they did not expect Xiao Lan to be so harsh. One should know that even the Yin family would not torture their clansmen who had committed a crime. At most, they would send them to a remote place and let them fend for themselves. However, Xiao Lan's methods were clearly beyond their understanding, which made them a little angry. The Yin family had made a mistake, but they themselves were not willing to take action. Now, the two maidservants in the prison had been beaten by an outsider. This was a huge humiliation to the Yin family. Therefore, in an instant, the anger in their hearts was ignited. Clan head, Xiao Lan actually beat up our clansmen like this. We can't just let this matter go. We must punish Xiao Lan severely. An elder shouted with righteous indignation. Right. Punish Xiao Lan severely. Since when did outsiders have the right to attack our Yin clan's people? This is preposterous. A single stone caused 1,000 ripples. After seeing the two maidservants covered in injuries, most of the elders were furious. Ling Ruoxue watched all of this coldly from the side and laughed coldly in her heart. This was exactly the result she wanted. She wanted to clear Xiao Lan of the suspicion of stealing the token so that Yin Bang would be dragged into this mess as well. The token in Xiao Lan's hands was not stolen, so Yin Bang would be charged with the crime of betraying others and colluding with outsiders to harm his clansmen. In this way, Yin Bang's reputation would be ruined, and his clansmen would all cast him aside. Oh! Could this be considered as indirectly helping Yin Ping, the acting family head? Seeing the fierce looks on the elders' faces, Xiao Lan was a little scared. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she cried, "It's not my fault. Yin Bang gave me the token, and he was the one who asked me to interrogate these two maidservants. You're just an outsider. What right do you have to question our Yin clan's people? Even if it's just two servant girls who made a mistake, you don't have the right." A tall and fierce-looking elder angrily rebuked. There's no need for this elder to be so angry. In truth, my two maidservants did not do anything wrong, but Yin Bang insisted on accusing them of stealing the things your head butler had given me. He even domineeringly locked them up and incited Miss Lan to torture them. The true cause of this incident was my beast that had bitten Miss Lan. Yin Bang wanted to avenge her, so these two maidservants are completely innocent. They should not have been treated like this. Ling Ruoxue said with a pained expression. Her words caused many of the Yin family's elders who were considered upright to fall silent. After all, this kind of thing was not uncommon in large families, and it was rare for people to bring this matter up in public because of the two maidservants. However, Ling Ruoxue had revealed the truth behind the scenes today, so they had no choice but to take it seriously. Even the elders who had thought that the punishment given to Yin Bang by the substitute family head was too heavy did not dare to make a sound. After a moment of silence, Ling Ruoxue smiled and said, "The truth of the matter is already known to all the elders. If you have any opinions or thoughts, everyone can speak freely. Acting Patriarch, I think Yin Bang's punishment is a bit light. He's such a traitor, and he doesn't care about the morality of his race. We can't let him off easily. We should expel him from the clan and inform the entire divine realm." An elder suggested. I agree. I also agree. As soon as this elder spoke, it immediately received the response of many elders. I'll consider your opinions, but expelling Yin Bang from the clan is no small matter. I'll have to ask the Patriarch for instructions before I can make a final decision. As for Xiao Lan, you can deal with her however you want. There's no need to give us face. Yin Ping thought for a while and said. He didn't want the elders to let Xiao Lan go just because of their relationship with her. In this way, he would have something to criticize in the hands of the elders. Now that he had lost his previous good impression of Xiao Lan, he naturally wouldn't care about her life or death. Moreover, What Xiao Lan had done was indeed intolerable to the Yin family. Uncle! You can't leave me alone. It was Yin Bang who made me do it. He said that he would think of a way to avenge me and even said that he would hand Ling Ruoxue and the two maidservants over to me to deal with. I was also eager to take revenge, which was why I got involved with him. Uncle! Please help me. After hearing Yin Ping's words, Xiao Lan, who was already a little scared, became even more nervous. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Her face was covered in tears, and she looked as pitiful as she could be. However, not many of the elders present would pity her. Who asked her to do something that had already exceeded the Yin family's bottom line? As one of the 8 great divine regions, how could the Yin family tolerate an outsider riding on top of their own family? Clan head Yin Dai, Xiao Lan has injured my 2 maidservants so severely. Shouldn't you give them an explanation? Ling Ruoxue smiled and said. What kind of explanation do you want? Yin Ping was a little surprised. He knew that Ling Ruoxue wouldn't let Xiao Lan off so easily, but he didn't know how she was going to deal with Xiao Lan. I like to give her a taste of her own medicine. Since Xiao Lan has severely injured my maidservant, there's no reason for her to be alive. Ling Ruoxue said without a trace of emotion. Then I'll leave Xiao Lan to you. Yin Ping sighed lightly and said straightforwardly. He didn't expect that Ling Ruoxue would actually be willing to stand up for 2 maidservants. One must know that these 2 maidservants were members of their Yin clan. As the acting clan head of the Yin clan, even though he could not act as he pleased like Ling Ruoxue, he still had the authority to hand over Xiao Lan to them. Then I won't hold back. After Grape and Lianzi are done with their revenge, I will return Xiao Lan to you. Ling Ruoxue smiled in satisfaction. Yes. Yin Ping nodded his head. Although he really wanted to say that he didn't need to return it, he didn't say it out loud. No. Uncle, don't give me to her. When Xiao Lan heard that Yin Ping wanted to hand her over to Ling Ruoxue, she panicked and cried out in alarm. However, she was ignored by Yin Ping. Aunt! Don't let Uncle hand me over to someone else. I'm begging you. Aunt! Seeing that her uncle wasn't even looking at her, Xiao Lan had no choice but to ask Xiao Lin for help. However, Xiao Lin had also turned her head and looked to the other side. At this moment, Ling Ruoxue stood up from her seat and took out 2 pills from her bangle. She stuffed them into Grape and Lotus mouths. Not long after, the 2 maidservants stood up from the rack. Even though their clothes were still stained with blood that caused one's heart to palpitate, the 2 of them knew very well that their injuries had all healed. It was just that their clothes were still a little scary. Miss! After the 2 of them stood up, they looked at Ling Ruoxue gratefully. Even though their minds were not very clear, they had heard the contents of the confrontation intermittently and knew that Ling Ruoxue had done a lot for them. Hence, at this moment, their hearts were filled with gratitude and admiration for Ling Ruoxue. The substitute clan head has already agreed to let you take revenge on Xiao Lan. Why don't you quickly thank him? Ling Ruoxue pointed at Xiao Lan, who was still struggling on her deathbed, and said to the 2 maidservants. Thank you for acting Patriarch's fairness and severity. Grape and Lotus Seed bowed and said. You have been wronged. The family should seek justice for you. Yin Ping said with some shame. Acting family head, we really didn't take anything from the young lady. The young lady would give us anything she has. Why should we steal it? Grape thought for a while and said. I know. I'm already clear on this matter. Yin Ping said helplessly. He was already cursing Yin Bang in his heart. House Master Yin Dai, Elder Bang can be released from the inner hall. Ling Ruoxue reminded him with a faint smile. Yes, go and invite Yin Bang out. Yin Ping ordered the guard beside him. Yin Bang, who was in the inner hall, was worried that Xiao Lan would expose what had happened between them. However, when he saw that the guard who had gone to invite him out was still respectful, he was slightly relieved. When he came out, he saw that the elders' expressions were normal, and Xiao Lan was standing at the side like a wooden block. He felt more at ease. Xiao Lan. How dare you steal my token? You really don't want to live anymore. Yin Bang shouted, trying to prove his innocence. Chapter 1440, Meeting the Little One Again, 1. As soon as Yin Bang spoke, the elder's expressions turned strange. However, he did not mind it because he knew that many of these elders would stand on his side. Therefore, he did not care even if some of them believed Xiao Lan's words. After all, Xiao Lan was an outsider, and it was almost impossible for the elders to stand on her side. Unfortunately, he had underestimated Leng Ruoxu's role in this. Leng Ruoxue watched Yin Bang's excellent performance with cold eyes and slowly opened her mouth to speak. Elder Bang. Oh. It was wrong. You're no longer an elder of the Yin clan, so I should be calling you Yin Bang. What did you just say? How can I not be an elder of the Yin clan? Before Leng Ruoxue could finish her sentence, Yin Bang stomped his feet in anger and roared. Oh. That's right. You don't know about this yet. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. You're no longer an elder of the Yin clan, and you'll be sent to some Flowing Wind Valley. The name Flowing Wind Valley sounds pretty good, but I don't know if it's as beautiful as its name. I wish you a happy life there. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Flowing Wind Valley. I've been banished. This was impossible. You're lying to me. Yin Bang did not believe Leng Ruoxue's words at all. His first reaction was that Leng Ruoxue was lying to him. Patriarch Yin, you should tell Yin Bang the good news. Leng Ruoxue suggested with a smile. Yes. Yin Ping nodded and then said to Yin Bang. After the discussion between me and the elders, you have been stripped of your position as an elder and will be sent to the Flowing Wind Valley from today onwards. However, in view of the serious consequences caused by your actions, the elders have proposed to expel you from the family. I will make an announcement after reporting this matter to the family head. Yin Ping. Can you repeat that? What right do you have to do this? I know that you've always found me an eyesore, but what mistake have I made for you to treat me like this? If the head of the family knew that you treated your brother like this, he would not let you off. Yin Bang said angrily after hearing Yin Ping's words. He was so angry that he didn't even address him as the acting family head. Yin Bang. Don't you know what you've done? You keep saying that your token was stolen, but after investigation, we've found out the truth. You gave the token to Xiao Lan and even promised her that you would take revenge for her. What else do you have to say? Yin Ping sneered as he questioned. This. How could you all believe Xiao Lan's one-sided story? She's your niece. Yin Bang reminded after hearing Yin Ping's words. She is indeed my niece, but everyone knows that she is staying at your place now. Moreover, the proof that you gave her the token is not just based on her one-sided statement. The elders who are close to you have also confirmed that you did give the token to Xiao Lan. They were all present at the time. Now, there are witnesses and physical evidence. Do you have anything else to say? Yin Ping said with a faint smile. This is impossible. Yin Bang couldn't believe Yin Ping's words and turned to look at Elder Lang and the others. However, those elders actually turned their heads in unison. Yin Bang. We're all clear about what happened, and we have no opinion on your punishment, so you should accept it. At this moment, an elder spoke indifferently. After he finished speaking, he couldn't help but sigh. What do you know? I didn't ask Xiao Lan to torture the two maidservants in the prison. It was Xiao Lan who acted on her own. What does this have to do with me? Yin Bang quibbled, not mentioning the token at all. Yin Bang. If she didn't have the token you gave her, would she have been able to enter the prison? Even if you didn't send her to prison, you created the conditions for her to go to prison. This matter started because of you, so you can't shirk it. As for what your goal is, you know it better than anyone else. Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. This is our Yin clan's matter. How can an outsider like you interrupt? Upon hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Yin Bang, who was still holding on to a glimmer of hope, was even more furious. This woman was clearly adding insult to injury. I really don't know how I've offended her. Why did she have to go against him? He could not understand. Am I an outsider? Your Yin clan's third elder has already given his position to me. Am now your Yin clan's third elder. Leng Ruoxue reminded Yin Bang of this fact calmly. What? How is this possible? Yin Bang asked in disbelief. The third elder couldn't have done something like this. How could the position of an elder be given to someone else just like that? If you don't believe me, you can ask the first 3 elders. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Third elder. Is this woman telling the truth? The moment Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, Yin Bang asked hurriedly. It's true. The furious third elder said in an unpleasant tone. Third elder. How could you do this? The third elder's words infuriated Yin Bang. He even forgot his own status and roared at the third elder. What I want to do is my own business. You, a sinner who is about to be expelled from the Yin family, have no right to question me. When the third elder heard Yin Bang's words, his already unsightly expression darkened even more. I didn't question you. I just don't understand. Yin Bang said with a smile. The third elder was his biggest backer, and he would never dare to offend the third elder. There's nothing I don't understand. In any case, I'm just an empty third elder. No one respects me at all. Since that's the case, why don't I give it to someone else? The moment he finished speaking, the faces of everyone present, including Yin Ping, instantly turned ugly. This was because the third elder's words weren't only meant for Leng Ruoxue to hear. He had clearly included everyone present in his calculations. Third elder has a high status in our Yin clan. Who would dare to disrespect you? If anyone dares to look down on you, I'll be the first to not forgive him. Yin Bang quickly said. It's too late for you to say all this now. You won't be a member of our Yin clan very soon, and I won't be the third elder. The third elder lightly raised his eyes and indifferently reminded. Well said, acting patriarch. Can you order your men to take Yin Bang away? They still have to pack up and head to Windflow Valley. After hearing third elder's words, Leng Ruoxue laughed nonchalantly. Chapter 1441, Meeting the Little One Again, 2, Emma, bring Yin Bang back to his residence and watch them pack up. They are not allowed to take a single needle or thread out of the Yin family's master's residence. Yin Ping nodded and ordered the guards beside him. Yes. Yes, master. The guard replied, then grabbed Yin Bang's arm and led him out of the meeting hall. Let go. You guys let go. I'm an elder of the Yin family, you can't treat me like this. I won't let you off. Yin Bang cried out in alarm. His voice was still reverberating in the meeting hall, but he had already been dragged out of the meeting hall by the guards. You can also take Xiaolan with you. Yin Ping turned to Leng Ruoxue and said. All right, he said. Leng Ruoxue nodded. She then turned to Grape and Lianzi, let's go back to Bright Stream Garden. Xiaolan is now your exclusive property, so you can play with her however you want. Ah. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Grape and Lotus Seed's foreheads were filled with black lines. Miss Words really made it too easy for people to have their own thoughts. Furthermore, they were not interested in Xiaolan. They hoped that no one would misunderstand. Don't just stand there, take Xiaolan and let's go back to Bright Stream Garden. Leng Ruoxue saw that Grape and Lotus Seed were still standing there stupidly after hearing her words. She couldn't help but remind them with a smile. Oh. Yes, Grape and Lotus replied, slightly embarrassed. Then, the two of them grabbed Xiaolan's arms and followed Leng Ruoxue back to Mingxi Garden. When they arrived at Mingxi Garden, Grape looked at Xiaolan, who was an eyesore, and asked with a look of disdain, Miss, what should we do with this woman? She's yours now, so you can do whatever you want with her. Also, you can rest assured that the acting master of the Yin family will not blame you. Leng Ruoxue was afraid that they wouldn't dare to make a move because of Yin Ping, so she gave the two of them a calming pill. Yes, we know. Grape and Lotus Seed quickly nodded. With the young miss around, how could the acting family head be dissatisfied? They could see that the Yin family's elders couldn't do anything to the young lady. Moreover, they seemed to be quite afraid of Xiaohua. However, what surprised them even more was that the third elder would actually give up the position of elder to the young lady in a fit of anger. This was really too inconceivable. Since you know, take Xiao Lan down and treat her well. We must make her feel at home. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Yes. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at each other, feeling very satisfied. They didn't expect Xiao Lan, who had always been arrogant in the Yin family, to have such a day. It seemed that sometimes, one should not be too cocky, or else, one would suffer retribution. Xiao Lan's failure this time would definitely make the people in the Yin family who had been bullied by her very happy, and they were naturally included in this group. The two of them took Xiao Lan to the storeroom and tied her up with a rope. Xiao Lan, who had been in a daze, slowly came back to her senses. After seeing her condition, she shouted again, "How dare you? Do you know who I am? You actually dare to treat me like this? Aunt and uncle won't let you off. Miss Lan, it was on behalf of the family head who handed you over to us to deal with. Have you forgotten?" Grape said with a very kind smile. "You're wrong. You must be mistaken." It was unknown whether Xiao Lan was really scared out of her wits or her mind was in a state of confusion, but she kept repeating the words, "You've made a mistake." Seeing that she was talking non-stop, Grape and Lotus Seed had no choice but to use a piece of rag to block her mouth. "It's finally quiet now. If you disturb the young lad's sleep, we'll teach you a lesson." After Grape warned him, she pulled Lotus Seed along and left the storage room. For the next few days, Grape and Lotus went to the storeroom to entertain Xiao Lan while Leng Ruoxue was taking a nap. After a few days of their warm hospitality, Xiao Lan's body was covered in wounds and it was a terrible sight. However, they would not be soft-hearted to Xiao Lan because they had been tortured by her in the past. Now, they were just returning everything that Xiao Lan had done to her. The Yin family had temporarily calmed down after the incident with Yin Bang and Xiao Lan. At the same time, the Yin family had also realized that they could not offend the women living in Mingxi Garden, nor should they have any ideas about the people around her. Otherwise, they would die without even knowing how they died. Weren't Yin Bang and Xiao Lan the best examples? Yin Bang had not only been stripped of his position as an elder for helping outsiders bully his own clansmen, but he had also been sent to Windflow Valley to fend for himself. He had even been expelled from the Yin family with the approval of the patriarch. No one had ever thought that such an outcome would happen. There was also the depressed third elder who had lost his position as an elder because of a single angry word he had said. The great ancestor of the Yin family had actually agreed to this. Now that Leng Ruoxue was the genuine third elder of the Yin clan, even though many people had doubts about this decision, no one dared to question the old ancestor. The current Leng Ruoxue was definitely living a carefree and free life in the Yin clan. Furthermore, her status as an elder gave her even more special privileges. At least, that old man no longer forbade her from staying in Bright Stream Garden. After a few days, Grape and Lotus Seed brought Leng Ruoxue around the Yin residence. Leng Ruoxue had also become familiar with the Yin residence. At least, most of the clan members recognized her. However, there seemed to be something else in the eyes of the clan members and the elders. After learning that the Yin family's main residence was much bigger than she had imagined, Leng Ruoxue returned to Mingxi Garden and did not step out of the house. However, Yin Xian would come and disturb her from time to time. Looking at Leng Ruoxue lazily lying on the reclining chair, Grape and Lotus Seed couldn't help but feel worried. These days, no matter what their young miss did, she didn't seem to be interested. They really didn't know what was wrong with her. "Miss, how should we deal with Xiao Lan?" Grape asked Leng Ruoxue, who was pretending to be asleep. "If you've had enough fun, you can return her to the Yin Dai clan head. You don't need to ask me about this kind of thing." Leng Ruoxue replied indifferently without even opening her eyes. Oh. Grape replied in disappointment. Can't Miss talk to them more? Miss. I heard from the head butler that the person who came to save Xiaolan yesterday has yet to be caught. Lotus Seed continued after seeing Grape's failure. Chapter 1442, Meeting the Little One Again, 3, Tell the head butler that there's no need to look for them anymore. Those people have all been bitten by Xiaohua. Even if they're alive, they'd rather die. Leng Ruoxue's tone was still calm, and no one could hear the anger in her words. Yes. Lotus Seed replied. Then, she exchanged a look with Grape. The two quietly walked to the side and began to discuss in a low voice. Grape, what's wrong with Miss? Lotus Seed asked worriedly. I don't know. Could it be that you're tired of staying here and want to go out for a walk? Grape could not help but guess. Haven't you been outside for the past few days? Could it be that young lady is tired? Lotus Seed guessed. That's impossible, right? We're all cultivators, how can we get tired so easily? Grape refuted. The young miss had saved their lives, so they had long treated Leng Ruoxue as their master. Now that they saw Leng Ruoxue's listless appearance, they were naturally very worried. You stay here with the young miss. I'll go outside and see if there's any good way to make the young miss happy. Grape said to Lianzi after some thought. Yes. Lotus Seed nodded and watched as Grape left Mingxi Garden. She then returned to Leng Ruoxue's side. For the next few days, Leng Ruoxue had yet to see the grapes. She couldn't help but feel curious, where did the grapes go? What are you busy with? This. I'm not too sure. Lotus Seed told the truth. He did not tell her what Grape was doing. Therefore, she was very curious about Grape's mystery. Moreover, Grape was not willing to tell her, which was really strange. You don't know? Leng Ruoxue said with a slight frown. She had been thinking of an excuse to leave the Yin clan for the past few days, so she had not paid much attention to Grape's behavior. However, it was a little abnormal that even Lotus Seed did not know what the grapes were doing. As the two of them were talking, Grape sneakily walked in from outside the courtyard. When he saw Leng Ruoxue, he ran to her with a face full of joy and presented her with a treasure, Miss. Look what I've brought you. What? Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and saw that Grape's chest was bulging. There was even a hint of white, like the fur of some kind of beast. Miss, is this your beastie? Grape took out little beastie, which she had hidden in her arms, and whispered. Little guy. Leng Ruoxue looked at the aggrieved and teary-eyed Xiao Budian and suppressed the anger in her heart. As expected, Miss recognizes it. When Grape saw Leng Ruoxue call out the little beast's name, he said happily. It seemed like her efforts these few days had not been in vain. Look at how happy Miss is now. Yes, I recognize it. It was all thanks to it that I was able to be brought to the divine realm. Where did you find it? Leng Ruoxue gritted her teeth. Ah. Looking at Leng Ruoxue's clenched teeth, Grape wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and thought to himself, could she have misunderstood? Why was it that when the young miss saw this little thing, it was as if she had seen her enemy? I found it by a well in the main house. At that time, it was being bullied by the children of my clan. It was very scared when it saw me, thinking that I would also want to bully it like those children. I saw that it looked a little like the beastie that Miss had mentioned, so I spent a few days trying to please it. Finally, it was willing to come back with me. Grape explained. Actually, she had gone out of her way to look for this little beast because she had heard Leng Ruoxue mention this little beast before. She had taken the initiative to think that this little beast was very important to Leng Ruoxue. Unfortunately, this little beast had always been staying in the master's main courtyard, which was not a place she could enter often. Therefore, she had been wandering around outside the main courtyard for the past few days, wanting to see if she was lucky enough to meet this little beast. The young miss would definitely be very happy. However, after walking around the main courtyard for a few days, no beasts came out. She had planned to return in disappointment but accidentally found this injured little beast by a well. She saw that the little beast looked like a fox and wanted to bring it back. Who knew that although the little beast was not big, it was very fierce. As long as she wanted to get close to it, the little beast would show its sharp teeth to scare her. Afraid of being bitten, she had to spend a few days coaxing the little beast, thus, it was only today that she was able to bring this cub back to Bright Stream Garden. Moreover, seeing that the young miss truly knew this beastie, she felt that everything she had done these past few days had been worth it. "Grape, you're so considerate," Ling Ruoxue said. "Miss, this is what your subordinate should do." As soon as Grape finished speaking, she wanted to hand the little beastie over to Ling Ruoxue. However, when the little beastie saw Ling Ruoxue, it was extremely resistant and kept retreating into Grape's hand. Seeing that Xiao Budian was still so afraid of her, Ling Ruoxue immediately took Xiao Budian from Grape's arms and pulled him into her embrace. Seeing the way Xiao Budian was looking at her pitifully, she could not help but chuckle. "Don't be afraid. I won't hit you, even though you betrayed me." "Really?" the little guy timidly asked. Ever since he sneaked out from that old man's side to play, there wasn't a single person that didn't bully him. The only kind-hearted big sister even handed him over to this demon. Sob. As the last fox of the Fox clan, why was his life so bitter? It couldn't help but wail in its heart. As long as you listen to me obediently, you will do whatever I tell you to do. Otherwise, I'll make you go and accompany your ancestor." Ling Ruoxue smiled and threatened. This little thing was really too disobedient. If he didn't discipline her while she was still young, wouldn't she rebel against the heavens in the future? Besides, she couldn't let this little guy continue to think of her as a bad person. If it were to double-cross her a few more times, she would lose her little life in its hands sooner or later. Thus, she decided to adopt the strategy of seeking Xiao Budian's safety. From now on, she would let Xiao Budian stay by her side obediently and not go anywhere, in case he caused any more trouble. "You're threatening me. You're a bad person." When the little guy heard that this terrifying demon actually wanted him to accompany his ancestors, his little heart trembled non-stop. His leopard cat clan only had one leopard cat left, and if he went to accompany his ancestors, wouldn't the leopard cat clan disappear from this world? No. This was absolutely not allowed. Although the old ancestor's last words had instructed him to follow this destined master well, this master was really too bad. Can it change owners? When Grape and Lotus Seed heard Ling Ruoxue's words and saw the little guy's appearance, they were a little puzzled. Wasn't it better to accompany the old grandmadam? Why did that little beast look as if it had suffered a great grievance? One had to know that in their Yin clan, there were countless people who wanted to be by the old ancestor's side, but unfortunately, they didn't have the chance. This little beast actually didn't know how blessed it was, and the two of them couldn't help but curse in their hearts. "As long as you're obedient, I'll naturally dote on you," Ling Ruoxue coaxed. "Really?" The little guy's face was filled with doubt. "Yes, you have to believe in my words. I've never lied to Beastie, but you're not allowed to betray me," Ling Ruoxue warned. "I didn't betray you," the little guy said in a small voice. "Then why did I come to the divine realm?" Ling Ruoxue questioned. This little thing actually dared to deny it. She really couldn't be taught. "It was that old man who brought you here." The little guy lowered his little head and said. "If you didn't bring him out of the nightmare forest, how would I have been brought to the divine realm by him?" Ling Ruoxue said in an unpleasant tone. "I thought he was playing with me." "That's how we've always been playing," the little guy explained with some grievance. Although he was young, he was not stupid. After seeing that the old man brought this female demon to the divine world, he knew that he had become an accomplice. Furthermore, he was also afraid that this demon would not let him off, so he had always stayed in that old man's residence. After all, compared to this demon, that old man was still quite good to him. However, after staying for a long time, he became a little bored, so he sneaked out. Who knew that the outside world would be so terrifying? Even such a cute beastie was being bullied, woo. Compared to those hateful children, the female demoness was still considered kind. At the thought of this, it snuggled in Leng Ruoxu's arms and found a comfortable position to lie down. It even closed its eyes. Seeing Xiao Budian in this state, Leng Ruoxu sighed helplessly and carried him back to the room. After the little guy stayed in Mingxi Garden for a few days, he began to like the life here. Hee. Not only were there people who served him well every day, but after spending time with the female demon for a few days, he was surprised to find that the female demon didn't seem to be as scary as before. Sometimes, she would even play with him. This also slowly improved his impression of Leng Ruoxue. In the garden, the little guy excitedly scuttled around in the flower bushes. In a moment's time, the originally beautiful flowers in the garden had become wilted. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue had no intention of stopping it. After all, the flowers and plants here did not belong to her, so even if they were destroyed, she would not feel any heartache. Furthermore, this was a good time for her and the little guy to get closer to each other, so she could not miss it. After all, she was still counting on the little guy to use his talent to bring her out of this place. She really had enough of being a canary. She didn't know what the old man's motive was for bringing her back. He actually didn't show his face all this time. However, it seemed that the old man didn't hide what happened in the Yin family. But, what was the meaning of him hiding and not showing his face? She couldn't figure out what the old man was thinking. Sister. Come and play with me. The excited Xiao Budian looked at Leng Ruoxue, who was not too far away, and shouted. Over the past few days, his title of Leng Ruoxue had changed from demon to big sister. It could be seen that the relationship between the man and the beast had grown much closer. Am not in the mood to play, you can play by yourself. Leng Ruoxue said with a face full of hidden bitterness. She became listless again. Seeing this, Grape and Lotus Seed, who were by her side, did not change their expressions. They seemed to have gotten used to it. Sister, you're in a bad mood. What's wrong? Xiao Budian ran to Leng Ruoxu's side from the flowers and asked with concern. I've been here for almost a month. If I stay any longer, it'll become stupid. I really don't know how long that old man wants to keep me locked up. Leng Ruoxue said in an exaggerated manner. That old man is even more cunning than a fox. However, if elder sister wishes to leave, I can help you. The little guy spoke with a sense of loyalty. From this, it could be seen how successful Leng Ruoxu's abduction was. Chapter 1443, Meeting the Ning Family, 1, You're really willing to help me? Leng Ruoxue confirmed, but she couldn't help but chuckle in her heart. What an easily deceived little fellow. It was no wonder that she was deceived by the old man. Moreover, after spending these few days together, she also discovered that this little thing was actually a child who really needed someone to coax and accompany him. Even just giving him a little benefit could make him so happy that he couldn't find his north. So, her attitude towards the little guy had improved a lot these days. Yes. I don't want to stay here anymore. There are so many bad people here who like to bully me. The little guy said with the same feeling. Then take me out of here. Leng Ruoxue deliberately thought for a while before she replied. All right, he said. The man and the beast quickly reached a consensus. However, their conversation made Grape and Lotus, who were not far away, feel puzzled. They had no idea what they were talking about. In their eyes, how could this little beast possibly have the ability to bring Leng Ruoxue away from this place? Not to mention that the Yin residence had always been heavily guarded, and one had to go through layers of checks if they wanted to leave. Young Miss could not leave the main residence without the consent of the master. Therefore, they did not really believe what they had not pointed out. However, looking at young Miss' serious expression, the two of them were a little confused. Miss. You can't leave the main residence without the permission of the master. Grape kindly reminded. Who said that I can go anywhere I want with the little one, right? Little guy. Leng Ruoxue carried Xiao Budian into her arms with a hint of pride. Yes, that's right. With me, big sister can go anywhere she wants. The little guy excitedly nodded his little head. Grape, lotus seed, you've served me for so long, so I won't make things difficult for you. Before I leave, I'll knock you out so that you won't be implicated. However, don't try to stop me from leaving, I don't want to stay here any longer. Leng Ruoxue looked at the two maidservants and deliberately made her words very clear. Miss. We know that we can't stop you. However, the divine realm is very dangerous. It's not suitable for you to walk in the divine realm with your current strength. Lotus Seed said in a very reserved manner. In fact, she was very reluctant to let Leng Ruoxue leave. However, she knew very well that Leng Ruoxue had made up her mind to tell them this. Furthermore, the young miss had thought about it very thoroughly. However, she still felt very uncomfortable in her heart. Miss. You want to abandon us? Grape was an impetuous person, and he was more direct than Lotus Seed. Ugh. Grape's words made Leng Ruoxue's forehead fill with black lines. What did she mean by wanting to abandon them? They were not her maidservants to begin with, all right? How did leaving them in the Yin family become abandoning them? I never thought of abandoning you. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly as she looked at Grape, who had a serious and resentful expression on her face. Miss wants to leave this place, but she wants us to stay. If she isn't abandoning us, what is she? Grape complained. You're from the Yin clan, I can't possibly kidnap you all. Of course, you have to stay. Leng Ruoxue wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead as she reminded him. Why can't you take us away together, miss? I'm going to leave with you. You're not familiar with the divine realm, so I can protect you if we meet any bad guys. After all, I'm a deity. Grape said very seriously. Ah. All right. You're stronger than me now. However, if I really encounter a bad person, I'm afraid you won't be able to protect me. Leng Ruoxue could not help but remind him. There's strength in numbers. Moreover, I don't dare to say that I'm very familiar with the divine world, but I can still be a guide for young lady. There are many dangerous places in the divine world that you can't go to, at least with young lady's current strength. Grape said very responsibly. Miss. I also want to leave with you. From now on, we're your people. Upon hearing Grape's words, Lotus Seed hurriedly added as if she was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would abandon her. Previously, she did not dare to make such a request because she was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would reject her. Now that Grape had already brought it up, she naturally did not want to be left behind. In reality, ever since Leng Ruoxue had saved them the last time, they had already given up on her. However, due to their status, they did not dare to say these words out loud. However, now that the young miss had decided to leave, if they did not say these words now, they might not have the chance anymore. Miss. Lotus Seed and I are willing to be loyal to you forever and serve you for the rest of our lives. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at each other. Then, the two of them knelt down in tacit understanding and issued a loyalty contract. With this, Leng Ruoxue could not refuse even if she wanted to. Leng Ruoxue looked at the two of them and sighed softly before saying, since you're willing to follow me, then the Yin family will have nothing to do with you in the future. Don't worry, miss. Lotus Seed and I are both orphans. Our parents have passed away a long time ago, and we don't have any relatives in the Yin family. We will never betray young lady. Grape understood Leng Ruoxue's words and quickly promised. You've already issued the loyalty contract, so I naturally believe you. In the future, don't just kneel down in front of me. I don't like this subordinate. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. She didn't expect that before leaving the Yin family, she would be able to abduct two maidservants from the Yin family. This would be the interest that the old man gave her. As for the emotional damage, he would settle it with the old man in the future. Yes. Upon hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Grape and Lotus Seed quickly stood up. The two of you, go and pack your things. Well, leave immediately. Leng Ruoxue continued. Miss. We don't have much to pack. The two of them quickly said. Then let's go now. Little guy, I'm counting on you. Take us to a good place. Leng Ruoxue instructed. She was extremely excited. She was finally leaving this place and no longer had to be a canary. Yes, yes. Xiao Budian nodded his little head vigorously. Following that, he used a white light to envelop Leng Ruoxue and the other two within it. The eye-piercing white light caused the three of them to close their eyes involuntarily. When they opened their eyes again, the three of them and the beast had already left the Yin clan. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. They never thought that in the blink of an eye, they would leave the Yin family's main residence. This was truly too inconceivable. They never thought that the little guy would actually have such abilities. No wonder the young miss wanted to find him. Now, they finally understood why the young miss had asked for the little guy's whereabouts the moment she opened her eyes when she first arrived at the Yin family. Chapter 1444, Meeting the Ning Family, 2, Miss. Have we really left the Yin family? Lotus Seed felt as if everything was a dream. It was so unreal. Before this, she was still thinking about how to bring Leng Ruoxue through the Yin family's many obstacles. I didn't expect him to leave so easily, This made her a little uncomfortable. But where was this? Grape, who felt that she had some understanding of the divine world, also had the same doubts. Looking around, the three humans and one beast were in the middle of a tall mountain. Moreover, this mountain was a barren mountain. Although the trees on the mountain were tall and straight, many of them had already withered. Not far away, the grass that was half the height of a person made people have no desire to go in and explore. This place was really too desolate. Where is this place? Leng Ruoxue looked at the overgrown grass in front of her, and her expression turned uglier. She clearly wanted Xiao Budian to find a good place, but where did Xiao Budian take them? A barren mountain or a barren forest? Other than the three of them and the beast, there probably wasn't even a single insect to be found. She couldn't help but complain. Miss. I don't know this place either. Grape said, a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. We should be out of the Yin residence by now, but we have to find a way out of here. Leng Ruoxue consoled. At this moment, Xiao Budian, who knew that he was brought to the wrong place, buried his head into Leng Ruoxue's arms without saying a word and did not dare to make a sound. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned the surrounding environment, trying to find a way out. However, all she could see was grass that was half the height of a human. The only way they could leave was to create a path for themselves. Miss. Let the little guy take us out of here. Doesn't it know how to teleport? Grape suggested. I can't take you guys out of here anymore. I'm still young, and I've traveled a long distance this time, so I don't have any strength left. When the little guy heard Grape's words, he raised his little head and explained. Woo. He was so tired right now. This time's transmigration had consumed all of its physical strength. It was a pity for its small body, it was really exhausted. Why were you so energetic when you were on the godly mainland? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. Back then, Xiao Budian would always appear and disappear like a ghost. He would appear wherever he wanted to go, and they couldn't guard against him. That's different. As long as it's not a long-distance travel, it won't consume much of my energy. However, this is probably the longest distance I've traveled since I was born. I'm really exhausted. The little guy pitifully said. How long will it take for you to recover? Leng Ruoxue asked again. At least half a month. The little guy thought for a bit and said. It seems like we'll have to stay here for half a month. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Without Xiao Budian's help, it wouldn't be easy for them to leave this place. In addition, most of her spiritual beasts were in closed-door cultivation. Therefore, even if she wanted to use her flying beasts to fly away from this place, there was no way. However, since she was already here, she should just take things as they were. This godforsaken place could just be considered a part of her life in the god world. Miss. Then let's set up the tent first. Upon hearing Leng Ruoxu's words, Grape also became more at ease. Yes. Leng Ruoxu nodded and watched as Grape and Lotus Seed set up their tents. She found a place to start a fire. Their current location should be at the highest point of a mountain or forest. In addition to the fact that the sky was getting dark, it had become unusually cold. Miss. Well, do the hard work. The tent has been set up, so you can go and rest. After Grape and Lotus Seed had finished setting up their tents, they saw Leng Ruoxu preparing food and quickly said, "I'm not as delicate as you think. Besides, it's not hard work. Cooking is a rare pleasure." Leng Ruoxu chuckled. "But with us here, how can we let young Miss do this? Could it be that young Miss dislikes the food we make?" Grape pursed her lips on purpose and said in a slightly dissatisfied tone, "I'm scared of you. You guys do it, okay?" Leng Ruoxu said helplessly. During this period of time, these two maidservants' cooking skills had gotten better and better under her training. Therefore, they always wanted to rush to cook. After they were done, they would look at her with eager eyes and wait for her praise. She really didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their childish behavior. "This is our job to begin with. Miss, you can't snatch it from us." The Grape still acted like a good girl after getting a bargain, and her beautiful face even revealed a fox-like smile. "All right. Then I'll just be a hands-off shopkeeper." Leng Ruoxu sighed softly. Having two hard-working maidservants was both a good and bad thing. The good thing was that these two maidservants would take the initiative to do what they saw without her instructions. However, this way, she had nothing to do. Yes. Grape and Lotus Seed nodded happily. After the three of them had dinner, they returned to their tents to rest. In the next few days, Leng Ruoxu and the other two wandered around the area where the tent was set up. They gradually found out where they were. The place they were standing on was indeed a very magnificent mountain, but this mountain had been abandoned for a long time. Looking at the dense weeds, it was clear that no one had come here for a long time. After clearing the weeds behind them, they looked down and saw a vast blue sea. They were at the top of the mountain, and if they accidentally fell, they would be buried in the stomachs of the fish. The three of them spent a few days investigating the terrain. They then obediently stayed in the campsite and waited for Xiao Budian to recover his strength. At this moment, Xiao Budian had already been sent into the bracelet by Leng Ruoxu and was absorbing the spiritual energy within the bracelet to his heart's content. "Miss. The little guy has been resting for 10 days, right?" Grape said as he sat in front of the tent and counted the days. "Yes, why? Are you anxious?" Leng Ruoxu asked in amusement. "Yup. I don't even see an insect here, I don't know what I'm doing every day." Grape sighed. As soon as she finished speaking, there was a sudden commotion in the grass. The three of them immediately turned their attention to it and became alert. Grape and Lotus Seed subconsciously shielded Leng Ruoxu behind them and watched every movement in the underbrush without taking their eyes off it. Chapter 1445, Meeting the Ning Family, 3. After a while, a group walked out from the grass. The leader was a man with a full beard. His age could not be seen, and he was tall. There were more than 10 people following behind him. There were both men and women, and their bodies were covered in a travel-worn aura. It was obvious that this was a group on an expedition. When those people saw Leng Ruoxu's group of 3, they were rather surprised. They did not expect to see anyone else in this barren mountain, and they were 3 beautiful women. For a moment, both sides were stunned. "Who are you people?" Grape asked loudly, her beautiful face still full of vigilance. "We should be the ones asking that. Who are you? Where did he come from?" At this time, a woman in the other party's team also asked in a very dissatisfied tone. "We were the ones who came here first, okay?" Grape rolled his eyes and could not help but remind him. This woman was really too annoying. She was comparable to some of the annoying direct relatives in the big families. He just did not know which family this person was from and whether she had such a big background. So what? We've been here for almost a month and we haven't seen a single person. There must be something wrong with you guys suddenly appearing here. The woman said disapprovingly. Miss, we were doing well here. It's you who suddenly appeared, okay? Grape was so speechless that he wanted to laugh at this woman's unreasonable behavior. This should be what the young miss always said about how big the world was and how there were all kinds of strange things. Grape. Don't quarrel with her. Philip. You shut up. Leng Ruoxue and the man with the full beard spoke at the same time. After he finished speaking, the man even took a special look at Leng Ruoxue. After taking a look, he was rather surprised. This woman was beautiful, but her cultivation was so low. She's only a mid-level deity and she actually dares to walk around in the divine world. Could it be that she's not afraid of being robbed by some lecherous person? Based on her cultivation level and the fact that she lived in the god world, the man concluded that Leng Ruoxue must have come from a powerful family. Otherwise, it would be difficult for deities below the deity realm to survive in the god world. However, strength spoke for itself in the divinity. This woman was so beautiful and her strength was so low. He wouldn't be surprised if she was robbed. Furthermore, there were many powerful clans in the divinity. Even if this woman's clan was extremely powerful, if she was really robbed, it would be a long story. Besides, he was more curious about why Leng Ruoxue and the other two would appear here. It was obvious that the three of them had a master-servant relationship. Hence, the man bowed slightly to Leng Ruoxue and said, I'm Ning Hai. Please forgive me for being so presumptuous. The presumptuous he was referring to was his sudden appearance here with his team, which had given the three of them a shock. In his eyes, they were all women, so it was normal for them to be afraid. It's alright, Leng Ruoxue. I wonder if Big Brother Ning has any relationship with the Ning family of the 8 great divine regions? Leng Ruoxue didn't expect this bearded man to have the surname Ning, so she couldn't help but ask curiously. Our captain is naturally from the Ning family. The woman named Fei Li said proudly. However, her eyes were filled with disdain for Leng Ruoxue. Brother Ning? Humph. He clearly knew the captain's identity and wanted to get close to him. With her around, this woman could forget about getting her way. Hee hee. Although I'm a member of the Ning family, I'm not a direct descendant of the Ning family, and I don't have much status in the Ning family, so don't keep any distance from me. Ning Hai said with a little embarrassment. He was very clear about the status of the Ning family in the divine world, and the friends he knew. After knowing that he was a member of the Ning family, there would only be 2 kinds of reactions. One was to try their best to curry favor with him, and the other was to distance themselves from him unconsciously. This made him quite conflicted in his heart. She had a good impression of this tall man. Furthermore, he was a member of the Ning family. She felt a sense of familiarity to be able to meet Godfathers Jr. in the wilderness. Furthermore, this man was already a divine lord, yet he kept saying that he had no status in the family. It seemed like Godfathers Jr. was full of talents. No wonder he could become the leader of the 8 great divine regions. Little sister Ruoxue, why are the 3 of you here? Ning Hai was also very curious, but he wouldn't question her as aggressively as Philip. Besides, since the woman in front of him had called him Brother Ning, there was nothing wrong with him calling her sister Ruoxue. Our flying beast was injured, so after dropping us here, it went into the beast's space to heal. To be honest, we don't know where this is, but without the flying beast, we can't leave, so we can only stay here temporarily. Leng Ruoxue furrowed her brows and pretended to be conflicted. When Grape and Lotus Seed heard Leng Ruoxue's words, they could not help but snicker in their hearts. Miss really didn't even need to draft a draft when she told lies. Moreover, the depressed expression on Miss' face made it hard for people not to believe it. So that's how it is. Little sister Ruoxue, actually, we don't know where we are either. We also came here by accident. Since your flying beast is injured, then come with us. Moreover, with your current strength, you're really not suited to walk in the divine realm. If you encounter a lecherous person, hell definitely snatch you back. At that time, even if someone wants to save you, it'll be too late. Ning Hai said worriedly. Thank you, Brother Ning. Actually, you're right. I was indeed robbed, and it took me a lot of trouble to escape. Len Ruoxue said with a face of hidden bitterness. It's a good thing you escaped. Otherwise, your innocence would have been ruined. Ning Hai said with fear. Listening to their conversation, Grape and Lian's foreheads were filled with black lines, and they couldn't help but feel disgusted in their hearts. The person that young Miss said snatched her away, could it be the old ancestor of the Yin family? Poor old ancestor. This time, your reputation is at stake. The time they had spent with Len Ruoxue could not be considered short. The two of them were already very clear about the reason why Len Ruoxue had come to the God world. However, they did not think that the old ancestor had brought the young Miss to the God world because he was lecherous. They believed that the old ancestor had other plans. However, as members of the Yin clan and Len Ruoxue's subordinates, they would not speak of such things without any evidence. Yes, Big Brother Ning, I'll have to trouble you for the time being. After Len Ruoxue found out that he was from the Ning family, she decided to go with them. Who asked her to be in Godfather's territory? If he didn't look for his godfather, who else could he look for? To put it bluntly, she couldn't find anyone else, and there happened to be a Ning family member in front of her. In addition, she had a good impression of this Ning family member, so she wanted to hitch a ride from him to the Ning family. It's no trouble at all. We're planning to leave this place tomorrow, so we'll bring you along. Ning Hai looked at Len Ruoxue's fragile appearance and couldn't help but feel tender love in his heart. Captain. How could he bring them along? They'll only drag us down. When Philip heard that Ning Hai was really going to bring Len Ruoxue and the other two along, he was filled with jealousy and immediately objected. You don't need to care about them, I'll take care of them, okay? Ning Hai said helplessly. He thought that Philip was not willing to take care of Len Ruoxue and the other two, so he directly took on this task. Little did he know that his words had made Philip even angrier. We will take care of our young miss. We won't trouble you. Grape saw Philip's hateful look and quickly said. You said it yourself. You should know that we are a team of adventurers. It's common for us to encounter danger. Don't drag us down when the time comes, and don't expect us to have the chance to save you. Philip warned. She knew very well that once the captain had decided on something, he would not change his mind easily. Therefore, no matter how dissatisfied she was, she had no way of convincing the captain not to bring them along. However, as long as they did not have the captain's protection, it was impossible for the three of them to travel with them unscathed with their strength. She could not help but think to herself smugly. Philip, what are you saying? Since I've agreed to bring them along, they will be a part of our team in the future. If they really encounter any danger, how can we just stand by and watch? However, it's up to you whether you want to help or not. I can't force you, but I definitely want just stand by and watch them encounter danger. Ning Hai frowned, obviously not agreeing with Philip's words. Captain. I didn't mean it that way. I just hope that they can understand the dangers of traveling with us. We can't just be her bodyguards forever. Most of the time, they still have to rely on themselves. Seeing that Ning Hai was angry, Philip quickly explained. But we can't just leave him to die. Ning Hai was a little annoyed. Big Brother Ning. You don't have to feel embarrassed, and you can also rest assured about this, Miss Philip. Although we will be traveling together, if we really encounter danger, I don't need any of your help. We can handle it. She was very touched by Ning Hai's protection, but she didn't want to cause an internal conflict in the team because of her and the others. She could see that Ning Hai cared a lot about the unity of the team, and she was just a passerby. Little sister Ruoxue, since you call me Big Brother, you are my biological little sister. As your big brother, How can I watch you all be in danger and not help? Then am I still a human? When Ning Hai heard Ling Ruoxu's words, he was both pleased and angry. Big brother Ning. I have the ability to protect myself, and am not as weak as you think. You should believe me. Ling Ruoxue said with a smile. Little sister Ruoxue, I don't care if you have the ability to protect yourself. Since I'm bringing you along, I must ensure your safety. So, there's no need to say anything else. Just listen to me when the time comes. Ning Hai said with a domineering face. After hearing Ning Hai's words, Ling Ruoxue only smiled and didn't say anything. Philip saw that Ning Hai was really angry, so he naturally shut his mouth. After a peaceful night, Ling Ruoxue and the rest had their breakfast the next morning. They packed their things and prepared to leave. Ning Hai's flying beast was an extremely huge gray eagle. That eagle had the strength of a 6th-level sacred beast. It had an arrogant expression on its face. Other than Ning Hai, who was its master, it did not care about anyone else. However, when it saw Ling Ruoxue, it showed an extremely solicitous expression. Chapter 1446, The Missing Philip. 1. When Ling Ruoxue was about to sit on the gray eagle's back, it obediently half-squatted down so that Ling Ruoxue could sit on its back. However, when others wanted to sit on it as well, they were not given the same treatment. Seeing this, Philip was furious. Damned perverted bird. You're really looking for death. Philip mumbled softly and even took the opportunity to kick the gray eagle. However, the gray eagle did not seem to care and continued to look forward. It's not bird color. It's just that your character isn't good, and even a bird isn't willing to give you a ride. Grape, who was the closest to Philip, said. Although Philip's voice was very soft, she still heard every single word. What does it have to do with you? Your master must have seduced this perverted eagle. Philip shouted in a rather unreasonable manner. Her words caused her companions to secretly shake their heads and reveal disapproving expressions. One had to know that this eagle belonged to their team leader, and now Philip actually wanted to vent her anger on the team leader's beloved pet. It was only because the team leader had a good temper that he could tolerate her. If it were anyone else, they would have kicked her out of the team. People who can't recognize reality are really sad. My family's young miss has a good character, and even Beastie is very friendly to her, unlike you. You can't even handle a bird. Grape's face was full of contempt. What did you just say? Philip was infuriated as he loudly questioned. Stop arguing. Philip. Do you still want to leave? Ning Hai was a little speechless. This Philip was getting more and more out of hand. He didn't even let them stop before they set off. Of course. Seeing Ning Hai's face turn ugly, Philip quickly acted like a little wife and said. Then hurry up and come up. Ning Hai said coldly. Oh. Feeling depressed, Philip quickly jumped onto the back of the giant gray eagle. Let's go. Ning Hai patted the gray eagle's head and said. Yes. Master. The gray eagle nodded, then flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Ling Ruoxue and the rest flew in the sky for 2 days and nothing happened. However, on the 3rd day, they were caught in the turbulence in the sky. Philip was unable to control his balance and fell from the sky. When they finally stabilized themselves and landed on the ground to look for Philip, he had long disappeared. Captain. I didn't find Philip. The teams that Ning Hai had sent out to search for Fei Li had returned one by one. However, they could not find Fei Li's whereabouts. When the giant gray eagle that was lying beside them heard the news, it actually revealed a half-smile, which was caught by Ling Ruoxue. Ling Ruoxue walked to the gray eagle's side and stroked its soft feathers. She said softly, it couldn't have been your doing, right? When the turbulence occurred in the air, the eagle's body began to shake violently. However, the others did not fall from its back, but Philip did. Philip had offended this eagle before, hee. It seemed that this eagle was also a vengeful guy. She laughed in her heart. I'm not. The gray eagle whispered. Its big, black eyes were wet as it peeked at Leng Ruoxue shyly. Its face was full of grievance. It doesn't matter if it's you, you did well. Leng Ruoxue praised. She liked beastie who would take revenge for its enemies. If master knew about this, he would scold me. The gray giant eagle rubbed its furry head against Leng Ruoxue as it spoke in a coquettish manner. I have a way to make him not blame you, but instead stand on your side. However, you have to tell me where that Philip is first. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. The eagle clan's vision was one of the best among the beasts. When the turbulence struck earlier, they might not have been able to see the exact location where Philip had fallen. However, they could not hide it from this eagle. Although they could not be sure if it really knew, the location that it knew was definitely more accurate than theirs. She should be hanging on a tree a kilometer away. I was going to let her hang for 2 more days. The gray giant eagle leaned its head into Leng Ruoxue's embrace and spoke in a voice that only they could hear. When that hateful woman fell down, it had already locked onto her position. However, it did not reveal its evil intentions. Then let her hang there for 2 more days, as long as her life is not in danger. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. She won't die, she'll just be hungry for a few days. The gray eagle said with regret. Hee hee. You're pretty cute. When Leng Ruoxue heard gray eagle's words, she could not help but chuckle. Ruoxue. What are you guys talking about? Seeing Leng Ruoxue and his beastie chatting happily, Ning couldn't help but walk over and ask. When did his beastie's relationship with Leng Ruoxue become so good? It was simply too unbelievable. One must know that his beastie would only show him some respect. He had always been disdainful towards others. However, he was different towards Leng Ruoxue. How could he not be surprised? It's nothing. Big brother Ning. Your beastie is quite cute. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Hee hee. Only you would say it's cute. However, it really treats you differently from other people. Ning said with deep feelings. I have affinity with beasts, but I don't have affinity with women. Most of the women see me as if I'm their enemy. Big brother Ning. You still haven't found Philip? Leng Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. No, I didn't. He did not know how Philip was now, whether he was dead or alive. Ai. Ning couldn't help but sigh. Don't worry. Big brother Ning. We'll find it. Why don't we stay here for a few more days and look for it? Leng Ruoxue said as she looked at the surrounding terrain. The place that Grey Eagle had chosen was quite suitable to be used as a campsite. It was big and spacious enough, and there were not many pedestrians on the nearby roads. That's the only way. Ning said helplessly. After searching for almost a day, everyone felt a little tired. After dinner, they went to bed early. In the tent. Grape looked at Leng Ruoxue with a face full of curiosity. He wanted to say something but stopped himself. Grape. What do you want to say? Leng Ruoxue looked at Grape's expression and asked in amusement. Miss. What did you talk about with the Grey Eagle this afternoon? Grape was very curious. However, at that time, she and Lotus Seed were quite far away, and Miss and the Eagle had deliberately lowered their voices, so they did not know what the man and the Eagle were talking about. The only thing they saw was that the Eagle was taking advantage of her miss. Chapter 1447, The Missing Philip, 2, ha ha ha. I'm trying to get some information from that Eagle. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Does it know where Philip is? Grape's eyes were wide open as he said in disbelief. What a petty Eagle. Just because Philip had scolded it earlier, it knew Philip's whereabouts but refused to tell him, hee hee. This Eagle is really cute. She liked it. Philip should be hanging on a tree right now. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Miss. You're not allowed to be kind enough to reveal Philip's whereabouts. Without that woman, we can still rest for a while. Grape reminded him with a serious face. Grape. You really don't understand me. Do you think I'm that kind of person? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be unhappy. Hee. Miss. I'm just reminding you. After all, we're with Ning Hai now. I'm afraid you'll tell him about Philip's whereabouts for his sake. Grape told the truth, and secretly decided to add more food for the Grey Eagle tomorrow. I'm not that kind. Not to mention that Big Brother Ning and Philip don't have any relationship, even if they do, I won't easily tell him Philip's whereabouts. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Miss, you mean you'll tell Ning Hai about this? Grape asked in a low voice. I'll definitely tell him, but he'll have to be careful with the method. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Hee. Miss. Don't tell Ning Hai too early. Grape suggested. Don't worry. I'll have Philip and that tree get closer. After Leng Ruoxue promised. After receiving her assurance, Grape and Lotus Seed had a good night's sleep, their faces filled with excitement. The next morning, the three of them walked out of the tent feeling refreshed. However, they felt an unfriendly gaze on them. Ruoxue. Come and have breakfast. When Ning Hai saw Leng Ruoxue and the other two, he quickly greeted them. Thank you, Big Brother Ning. Leng Ruoxue did not stand on ceremony at all. She brought the grapes and lotus seeds and found a place to sit down. I didn't bring you breakfast. If you want to eat it, go get it yourself. At this moment, a woman who looked similar to Philip said angrily. The woman who spoke was Philip's younger sister, Faye. Although they did not have a good relationship, after Philip's disappearance, all the people in their team had gone out to look for him. They were exhausted every day, while the three women stayed in the camp comfortably. This made her very unhappy. They were all women, so why did they enjoy such treatment while she had to go out and work hard to find him? This made her extremely unbalanced. Not only that, she had to get up early every day to prepare food with her companions, but the three women in front of her were like young ladies from rich families, only waiting to eat. How could there be such a good thing in the world? The accumulated resentment finally exploded when everyone was about to eat breakfast. Feye, what are you talking about? Hearing Fei Ye's words, Ning Hai was furious. Fei Yi was usually an obedient girl. Why did she become like Philip after he went missing? Was her gentleness and obedience all an act? Ning Hai couldn't help but wonder. Captain. I'm telling the truth. Why do we have to work so hard to find them while these three women can stay in the camp comfortably? We're already very tired and have to prepare 3 meals, but they don't have to do anything but wait for food. Is this fair to us? Fei Yi shouted angrily. What's wrong? You're not even willing to look for your own sister. Big Brother Ning didn't arrange for us to look for them because we're too weak. If we run into danger while we're looking for them, can you save us? Leng Ruoxue asked with a cold smile. Why wouldn't I be willing to go out and look for my sister? I just saw that you guys were too free, so I couldn't help but say it. Besides, even if you're weak and can't go out to find people, you can at least cook for us. Feye argued. In fact, she really did not want to go out and look for someone so hard. Since she was born, she had been living in her sister's shadow. Philip was better than her in every aspect, and the reason why the captain was willing to let her join the team was also because of Philip. Therefore, although she appeared to respect her sister very much on the surface, she was very disdainful of this sister who was only a superficial person. You want my young miss to cook for you? Are you worthy? Let me tell you. Not only will we not help you find that sister of yours, Philip, but we will also not cook for you. As for the food that you have prepared, if you don't want us to eat it, then we won't eat it. It's no big deal. Grape roared angrily. Although the young miss was not a true member of the Yin family, she was still the third elder acknowledged by the family head. She wouldn't be happy if a noble lady were to cook for them every day. Besides, there were quite a number of these people who looked down on them. There was no way they would cook for someone who hated them. Miss. Please wait a moment, I'll go make breakfast. Grape turned to Leng Ruoxue and said gently, yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Ruoxue. Don't let the grapes do it, I'll bring your share. Hearing Grape's words, Ning Hai quickly stopped her, his face still full of an apologetic expression. It's okay, brother Ning. I'm already very grateful that you're willing to take us with you. How can I let you worry about our 3 meals? Also, don't cause disharmony in your team because of the 3 of us, or I'll be a sinner. Leng Ruoxue reminded him nonchalantly. To be honest, although she couldn't say that every meal with them was dry, it was almost enough. Although she didn't really want to eat it when Ning Hai gave it to her, she was too embarrassed to reject Ning Hai's enthusiasm, so she could only force herself to eat it. If she could use this opportunity to separate her food from theirs, it might not be a bad thing. Ruoxue. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's understanding words, Ning Hai didn't know what to say. He felt guilty. He wanted to take good care of this delicate little sister, but unfortunately, some people in the team. Big brother Ning. It's okay. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile, but in her heart, she apologized to Ning Hai. Chapter 1448, The Missing Philip, 3, Big Brother Ning. Hurry up and eat your breakfast. Don't we still have to go find Philip after dinner? Leng Ruoxue saw that the atmosphere was a little heavy, and no one dared to move their chopsticks, so she smiled and urged them on. Ai. Everyone, let's have breakfast. Ning Hai sighed and said helplessly. While they were eating, Leng Ruoxue went to the side of the gray eagle that was lying under the tree and sat down. Seeing the gray eagle gnawing on the dried food, Leng Ruoxue took out a piece of dried meat from her bracelet and placed it in front of the gray eagle's mouth. The gray eagle sniffed and gobbled up the dried meat. After it finished eating, it looked at Leng Ruoxue expectantly. Its pitiful look made her laugh. Following that, Leng Ruoxue took out another piece of dried meat and sent it to the gray eagle's mouth. The gray eagle opened its mouth and swallowed it immediately. After it finished eating, it even rubbed against Leng Ruoxue's arm enthusiastically. At this moment, Grape walked over and said, Miss. Breakfast is ready. I've also prepared your share. Grape touched the gray eagle's head and said. After the gray eagle heard Grape's words, he looked at Grape with a glimmer of anticipation in his eyes. However, when Grape and Lotus placed the breakfast that they had prepared in front of her, Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless. These 2 petty girls were clearly doing it on purpose. Seeing that others had made some porridge, they also made porridge, and they made more than one kind. On top of that, they also made a variety of side dishes. This breakfast was so rich that she had nothing to say. With a smug look on his face, he filled a bowl of grapes for Leng Ruoxue and Hui Ying, then specially sent some to Ning Hai. After that, he sat down with Lotus Seed and started eating breakfast. After breakfast, Leng Ruoxue and the others, as well as Hui Ying, watched as Ning Hai and the others went out to look for Fei Li. At first, Fei Yi wanted Hui Ying to go out and help them find Fei Li, but Ning Hai was afraid that Leng Ruoxue and the other 2 would meet with bad people, so he stubbornly asked Hui Ying to stay. His actions made Fei Yi hate Leng Ruoxue and the others even more. Little Gray. Don't worry, as long as we're here, we'll take care of your 3 meals. We won't let you eat dry food. After seeing Ning Hai and the others leave, Grape patted the gray eagle's head and promised. My name is Hui Ao, don't call me Xiao Hui, it's too lacking in aura. The gray eagle complained. Hee hee. Little Gray is our pet name for you. Grape said with a smile. Ai. Alright then. Hui Ao accepted his fate. Who asked them to be his livelihood for the next few days. The food they made was really delicious. For the sake of the food, he would allow them to call him that. Hee hee. That's a good girl. That's right. Can you see how that Philip is doing? Are you still alive? Grape's face was full of curiosity. Yes, he's still alive. He's just a little haggard. Ao nodded and said. That distance may be difficult for humans, but it was not difficult for it. He's still alive. It's such a pity. Grape's face was full of disappointment. Silly girl, that woman can't die. Otherwise, Brother Ning will definitely feel guilty. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. It's none of his business, so why should he feel guilty? Grape did not understand. My master is a very responsible man. He values everyone in the team, even though he knows that some people are just using him. Ao lowered his head and said gloomily. Don't worry. Good people will be rewarded. Although some people are ungrateful, Brother Ning will definitely be rewarded. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. I hope so. Ao was a little dejected. After searching for a few days, Ning Hai and the others went out early and returned late every day, but they still couldn't find Philip. However, he still felt warm in his heart when he came back every day to eat the hot food prepared by Leng Ruoxue and the others. However, Leng Ruoxue and the other two only prepared food for those who were close to them, which made him quite helpless. However, he had no reason to ask them to prepare food for all of them, so he could only apologize to some people. Seeing Ning Hai and the others gobbling down the food, Leng Ruoxue's forehead unconsciously dripped with cold sweat. How long had it been since they last ate? You can't be this hungry, right? Big Brother Ning. You guys eat slowly, there's still a lot more. Leng Ruoxue was afraid that they would choke, so she quickly reminded them. I know. Ruoxue. The cooking skills of your two maidservants are really good. It's really worth it to be able to eat such a meal while traveling outside. Ning Hai sighed. Ah. Big Brother Ning. Do you have to make it sound so pitiful? Leng Ruoxue asked, feeling a little speechless. Ruoxue. I can tell that this is your first time leaving home. It's not easy for adults like us who have gone out to gain experience to eat a hot meal, let alone so many delicious dishes. Ning Hai said pitifully. Yup. Most of the time, we can only eat dry food. Sometimes, we can have meat to eat, a man who was eating happily said with tears in his eyes. Ah. Hearing how pitiful they sounded, Leng Ruoxue was too embarrassed to provoke them and could only change the topic. Big Brother Ning. Don't you have any leads on Philip? Where are you? Leng Ruoxue asked calmly. AI. Don't even mention it, we've searched the entire 100 li radius, but we can't find a trace of Philip. Ning Hai said gloomily. Could it have been eaten by some beastie? Grape interrupted with a smirk. Ah. It can't be. Ning Hai listened to Grape's words and started to think very seriously. Big Brother Ning, don't worry. No beastie will eat her. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. I thought so too. Ning Hai said seriously. However, as soon as he said this, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Ning Hai scratched his head in embarrassment. He knew why everyone was laughing. Thinking of the meaning of his words, even he couldn't help laughing. Big Brother Ning. Have you searched all the places? Leng Ruoxue asked again when she saw that her question had been diverted. We've searched all the places we can. Ning Hai frowned. Are there any mountains or forests nearby? If she fell there, it would not be easy to find her. Leng Ruoxue reminded. There are no mountains or forests here, but there are quite a few trees. Ning Hai thought for a while and said. You didn't look up the tree. Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with question marks. On the tree? You're saying that she might have fallen into a tree, and that's why we didn't notice? Ning Hai said with a look of realization. I'm not saying that she might have fallen into a tree. I just feel that a living person can't just disappear for no reason, right? Even though we don't know if she's dead or alive. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Ruoxue's words make sense. Now that I think about it, those trees are quite tall. If there's really someone hiding up there, it won't be easy for them to discover. Ning Hai said after thinking for a while. Captain, since we only haven't searched the trees, let's look up the trees tomorrow. If he still doesn't have it, then there's nothing we can do. After all, we've tried our best after searching for so many days. A young man said after some thought. Then let's search for another day tomorrow. If we still can't find it, let's leave. Ning said unhappily. Although Philip was not very popular in the team, he was still one of them. Unless he was forced to, he was not willing to give up. The few of them nodded. After dinner, they immediately returned to their tents to rest. The next day, Ning left the camp early with his men. However, before noon, everyone came back together. Naturally, Philip, who had been missing for many days, followed them. She saw that Philip was in a sorry state. The clothes on his body had become wrinkled and he looked extremely haggard. If it wasn't for the fire in his eyes that proved that he was in a good state, Leng Ruoxue would have thought that this woman had learned her lesson. Now, it seemed that Philip was not going to stop. Sure enough, just as Leng Ruoxue's thoughts formed in her heart, Philip rushed to Hui Ao with a face full of anger. He waved his fist, wanting to hit Hui Ao, but Ning grabbed her hand. What are you doing? Ning said unhappily. If it wasn't for the fact that Fei Li had suffered a lot these days, he wouldn't have let her off just because she wanted to beat up Hui Ao. It should be known that Hui Ao was his most important companion and relative. Hui Ao's position in his heart was even more important than his teammates. Therefore, he would rather Philip vent his dissatisfaction on him than let her touch a single feather on Hui Ao. Captain. It's all this stinky bird's fault that I fell down, don't stop me. I'm going to get my revenge today. Philip roared in anger. Master. Let her hit me. Although I didn't want to encounter turbulence, it was indeed my fault that I didn't let her sit properly. Hui Ao raised his head, tears rolling down his bright black eyes. The expression on his face was pitiful, and everyone could not bear to see it. No. Philip. If you want to vent your anger, you can hit me. I won't allow you to touch Hui Ao. After hearing Hui Ao's words, Ning was also furious. Fuck. This clearly had nothing to do with Hui Ao, so why should Hui Ao be the one being wronged? Since the other party had blamed his own beastie for his fall, then as the master, he should suffer for Hui Ao. Big brother Ning. The turbulence was an accident. It could not be blamed on Hui Ao at all. Moreover, Hui Ao was also trying hard to control his balance at that time. You see, we were all fine. Why is she the only one who fell? Leng Ruoxue smiled as she voiced her doubts. It is. It was obvious that she did not hold on firmly and fell down, yet you still blame it on Hui Ao. I'm telling you. Don't think that you can bully Hui Ao just because he's a beastie. I'm here. Don't even think about hitting it. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Grape immediately stood in front of Hui Ao like an old hen protecting its chicks and roared. You. Are you all still being reasonable? I'm the victim here. It was this thing that caused me to fall down. Philip roared in anger. What a joke. At that time, we were all on Hui Ao's back. Why didn't we fall down? You, who was sitting in the middle of the crowd, fell down. You fell because you didn't hold on tight enough. Grape roared back, unwilling to be outdone. He was even more upset in his heart. Is it a competition of volume? Today, they wanted to make Philip suffer in silence. Of course. It would be even better if she could be angered to death. Chapter 1449, Chapter 1449 Beating them at their own game. 1. It's not that I didn't grab it properly, it's clearly this damn bird doing it on purpose. Philip said angrily. Damn it. Why didn't anyone believe her? Moreover, seeing that big brother Ning seemed to be very angry, she really didn't know what she had done wrong. Alright. Don't quarrel. Fei Li, this was a complete accident. Although you did not suffer any serious injuries, you were still shocked. I apologize to you on behalf of Hui Ao. I hope you will not pursue this matter anymore. I can only say sorry. Ning Hai said with a headache. Although he had already expected this to happen when he brought Philip back, the current situation was obviously beyond his expectations, and he had had enough of Philip's ruckus. Therefore, the implication of his words was very obvious. If Philip kept harping on this matter, he would have to ask the sisters to leave the team. Captain. I'm sorry, I was too excited. I won't pursue this matter. Fei Li was a woman who knew how to judge the situation, and she understood what Ning Hai said. However, she would not leave the team easily, and she would not give anyone an excuse to drive her away. Ning Hai was the rich man she had set her eyes on. How could she give him up to another woman? I know you're frightened. I won't blame you. I hope you're on your own. Ning Hai said in a light tone. After that, he comforted the pitiful Hui Ao and turned to leave. After Ning Hai left, Philip glared at Leng Ruoxue and the other two for a long time before he asked, "Why didn't you guys go out to look for me?" When Leng Ruoxue and the other two heard this, they could not help but laugh. "Miss Fei Li, if you haven't woken up from your dream, go and sleep for a while," Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. This Fei Li could also be considered a top-grade person. Not to mention that they didn't have any friendship, even if they did, it would have to be based on their own abilities. Asking her to look for someone was no different from putting herself in danger. Although she had a lot of cards up her sleeve, they were not easy to show, otherwise, she would definitely cause trouble. What do you mean by this?" Philip roared in anger. "I mean, we don't have any friendship," Leng Ruoxue said coldly. She wasn't a good person, and she wouldn't risk her life for a woman who didn't like her and was hostile to her. So, not to mention that Big Brother Ning didn't ask her to go out and look for Philip, even if he did, she wouldn't go. "It is. My family's young miss strength is too low. If she were to encounter danger while searching for you, would you be able to take responsibility? How can your life be worth as much as my family's young miss?" Grape said arrogantly on purpose, raising her proud head high. "You guys," Philip was so angry that he couldn't speak. He could only glare at Leng Ruoxue and the other two with a red face. "Sister. Don't bother talking to them, they don't know what team spirit is." Fei Yi had once again placed a high hat on Leng Ruoxue and the other two. She couldn't help but reveal a look of disdain. "Miss Fei Li, if I remember correctly, you said that when we are in danger, don't count on you to save us. I'll return those words to you now. When you are in danger, we will also not help you." Leng Ruoxue chuckled. However, her words sounded like a joke to the sisters. "If there's really danger, it'll be good enough if you can protect yourself. Who can count on you to save us? This is really too laughable. Why don't you take a look at your own strength? With your strength, I'm afraid you can't even protect yourself on the godly mainland," Philip said with a look of disdain. "Miss Fei Li is right. We're indeed weak, but we'll protect ourselves. Miss Fei Li doesn't need to worry about our safety." After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking calmly, she brought Grape and Lotus Seed back to the tent. Hui Ao lowered his head, hiding the flash of disdain in his eyes. Seeing that Hui Ao was not going to pay attention to her at all, the anger in Philip's heart had no way to vent. After giving Hui Ao a hard kick when no one was looking, she turned around and left angrily. Hui Ao looked at the bright footprints on his body, and a smug smile appeared on his face. During dinner, Grape was preparing to deliver food to Hui Ao as usual. However, when she walked to Hui Ao's side, she found that there was already a lot of food beside him. "Little Greylay, where did you get these things?" Grape asked curiously. "It's from that woman," Hui Ao gently lifted his eyelids and said indifferently. "She's that kind?" Grape's face was full of doubt. "Definitely not. There's something inside," Hui Ao said with a sneer. When the woman brought the food over, he had already discovered that there was another smell in it. That was why he was hesitating whether to eat it or not. In fact, the Eagle clan not only had good eyesight, but their sense of smell was also top-notch. However, many people were not aware of it. Then don't eat it. That woman is so evil. She actually used such a dirty trick. Grape growled angrily. What do you mean you don't want to eat? At this moment, Len Ruoshua happened to walk over and asked. Miss. Philip sent food to little Greylay but he drugged it. Grape immediately complained. Oh. Little Grey, hurry up and eat this food. Len Ruoshua laughed evilly. This was a good opportunity. It must be known that Philip's previous argument was not enough for Brother Ning to drive her out of the team, but the crime of drugging his beloved pet, Brother Ning absolutely could not tolerate it. All right, he said. After hearing Len Ruoxua's words, Hui Ao nodded unwillingly. Then, he lowered his head and gobbled up the food that Philip had brought. It was not that the food Philip brought was delicious, but the food was simply too unpalatable. He had no choice but to swallow it in big mouthfuls without even chewing. After finishing the food that Philip brought, Hui Ao's big, wet eyes were still staring at the food in Grape's hand. His meaning was self-evident. Looking at its pitiful appearance, Grape was about to give the food in his hand to Hui Ao but was stopped by Len Ruoshua. Little Grey. You can only eat the food from Philip today. If they eat us, then all our efforts will be in vain. Len Ruoshua reminded him with a smile. If Hui Ao ate the food they prepared at the same time, Philip would definitely argue that there was no problem with his food. Naturally, she would not give Philip that chance. Chapter 1450, Chapter 1450 Beating them at their own game, 2, yes. Hui Ao nodded his head resentfully. He understood Len Ruoxua's meaning. However, it did not feel good to only be able to look but not eat. Grape. Leave the food here and let's go back to the tent. Len Ruoshua looked at Hui Ao's expression and laughed. Miss. Didn't you forbid little Greylay from eating our food? Why are you still here? Grape asked, puzzled. During this period of time, we have been sending food to little Grey every day. If we don't send it today, it will make people suspicious. But if we leave the food here and something happens to Hui Ao before he can eat it, even if Philip wants to deny it, he can tea. Len Ruoshua chuckled as she explained. Miss. You're so cunning. Grape's face was full of admiration as he stared at Len Ruoshua with bright eyes. Hearing Grape's words, Len Ruoxua's forehead was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, is Grape complimenting me? Grape. Let's go back. Len Ruoshua said as she wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. Yes, little Grey. You're not allowed to eat it. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain. After placing the food next to Hui Ao, Grape worriedly reminded him again. I know. Hui Ao was very depressed. Extremely depressed. However, thinking of the pain it was about to suffer, it endured it. Not long after Len Ruoshua brought the grapes back to the tent, she saw Ning Hai running over with sweat all over his head. He asked while panting, Ruoshua. Something happened to Hui Ao. What did you feed it? Big brother Ning. So what if it was Hui Ao? We're giving it the same food as usual. Len Ruoshua played dumb. Hui Ao seems to have been poisoned and is rolling on the ground in pain. Ai. What do we do now? Ning Haish's brows were knitted together. Of course, he did not believe that Len Ruoshua and the others would harm Hui Ao. After all, Hui Ao got along well with them. However, this place was far from the city. Even if he wanted to find an alchemist to treat Hui Ao, he would not have the chance. This was because the other people's flying beasts were not fast enough. By the time they found the alchemist, Hui Ao would be in so much pain that he would die. How did you get poisoned? Len Ruoshua asked with a puzzled look. Someone said that after you delivered the food to it, Hui Ao was poisoned. Ning Hai found it difficult to say. Then, he was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would misunderstand him, so he quickly added, no matter what other people say, Big Brother Ning absolutely believes that this matter has nothing to do with you. Big Brother Ning. As long as you believe us, we don't care about what others say. Besides, if I'm not wrong, the person who said that should be Miss Philip. Leng Ruoxue asked with a cold smile. Yes. Ning Hai nodded, his face full of helplessness. Big Brother Ning. Since some people suspect that Hui Ao's poisoning is related to us, then we should go and clarify it. Moreover, I know a little about alchemy, let me take a look for Hui Ao. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Ruoxue. You know alchemy? Hearing that Leng Ruoxue knew how to refine pills, Ning Hai was overjoyed and quickly asked. Yes, I know a little. However, I have to see Hui Ao's condition first before I can decide if there is a way to save him. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. In fact, the reason why she let Hui Ao eat the food that Philip served was because she was confident that she could save Hui Ao. However, in front of Ning Hai, she would not be too confident. Ruoxue, regardless of whether you can save Hui Ao or not, I'll thank you first. After hearing what Leng Ruoxue had to say, Ning Hai quickly said. Big Brother Ning, don't worry. I'll do my best. Leng Ruoxue promised. Then, Leng Ruoxue and the other two followed Ning Hai out of the tent to check on Hui Ao. Just as he walked to Hui Ao's side, Philip shouted at the top of his voice, they're the ones who harmed the captain's beastie. They're such ungrateful guys. The captain was so good to them, and Hui Ao often drove them, but they actually dared to do it. This is really too despicable, Captain. Don't let them off. If they can harm Hui Ao today, they might be able to harm us tomorrow. We can't have such a dangerous person in our team, don't you think? Philip tried to stir up the crowd's emotions, but she realized that the crowd was rather cold to her words, which made her a little puzzled. What was going on with these people? How could he be so indifferent to this matter? Were they not afraid? What if they were the ones who were poisoned next time? Philip. Shut your mouth. Don't talk nonsense before the matter is cleared up. Ning Hai heard Philip's words and warned him unhappily. He was getting more and more dissatisfied with Philip. Captain. The one who was poisoned was your beastie. How can you be so cold? Philip's face was filled with disbelief. Do you want everyone to accuse others without any evidence or truth, just like you? What I want is evidence. If you can produce evidence to prove that Hui Ao was poisoned after eating the food brought by Ruoxue and the others, I will believe your words. Ning Hai said coldly. His words were not only for Philip, but also for everyone present. Captain. I believe that Miss Leng and the others would not poison Hui Ao. They don't have any conflicts with Hui Ao. Moreover, we often eat the food they prepare. How come nothing happened to us? A young man who had a good relationship with Leng Ruoxue and the rest spoke. Captain. I also believe in Miss Leng and the others. They have no reason to harm Hui Ao. If we have to talk about the person who has a grudge with Hui Ao, it's actually Philip. Someone echoed. Yueshi. What do you mean by that? Hearing this, Philip immediately exploded. I'm telling the truth. We all know that among all the people here, only you have a grudge against Hui Ao. The first thing you wanted to do when you came back was to beat it up. The man called you, she said with a faint smile. Yueshi. Don't spout nonsense. Why would I do that? Humph. It's obvious that you've taken a fancy to this vixen and wanted to please her, so you're deliberately framing me. Philip's face turned red as he roared. Philip, do you think that everyone is as ignorant as you? Yushi laughed sarcastically. He did not deny that he had a good impression of Leng Ruoxue, but that was only limited to his appreciation of beautiful things. He knew very well that a woman like Leng Ruoxue was not someone an ordinary man like him could have. So, naturally, he would not have any improper thoughts about Leng Ruoxue. Chapter 1451, Chapter 1451 Beating them at their own game. 3. Philip was speechless, but she couldn't deny that what she said was true. Everyone knew how she felt about Ning Hai, except for Ning Hai. Alright, stop quarreling. Since some people suspect that I'm related to Hui Yao's poison, I'll clarify it. Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. The evidence is irrefutable. How do you want to clear your name? Philip asked in a sharp voice. Irrefutable evidence? Miss Philly, may I ask where the evidence you mentioned is? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Who doesn't know that Hui Yao's food was prepared by you? Philip said proudly. Miss Philip. We have prepared Hui Yao's food well these few days, but I heard from Grape that someone had sent food to Hui Yao before we did. Moreover, Hui Yao had eaten all the food sent by the other people. So, Hui Yao should not have touched the food we sent. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. How is this possible? You said that Hui Yao didn't eat your food, then what about the food you brought? Where is he? Fei Li looked around. In fact, after she delivered the food to Hui Yao, she had been secretly observing Hui Yao's movements. After seeing Hui Yao eat her food, she was very excited. After Hui Yao showed signs of being poisoned, she thought that no one knew that she had taken away her utensils. In this way, no one would know that she had sent food to Hui Yao. Unfortunately, she only wanted to destroy the evidence of her crime and neglected the food that Leng Ruoxue and the others had sent. Now, after Leng Ruoxue's reminder, she suddenly remembered that she did not seem to have seen the food that they had brought to Hui Yao. I'm afraid we'll have to ask Hui Yao where our food is. Leng Ruoxue said with a calm smile. After she finished speaking, she walked to Hui Yao's side and patted his head gently. At this moment, Hui Yao looked extremely disheveled. His originally smooth feathers were now in a mess and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was lying on the ground weakly. His big, wet eyes were dull and lifeless. Leng Ruoxue's heart ached when she saw Hui Yao in this state. However, for the sake of her plan, she could only bear with it. Ruoxue. Do you have any way to cure its poison? Ning Hai asked expectantly when he saw Leng Ruoxue checking on Hui Yao's condition. Big brother Ning. Don't worry. I will find a way to cure Hui Yao. Leng Ruoxue promised. Of course you can cure Hui Yao, because you were the one who poisoned him. Fei Li could not help but remind him. Actually, she did not believe that Leng Ruoxue could cure Hui Yao. After all, the poison she had given was said to be very difficult to detoxify. This poison was not fatal, other than making people feel as if they were better off dead. After all, her purpose was only to use Hui Yao's accident to drive Leng Ruoxue and the other two away, not to take Hui Yao's life. Thus, she did not use a heavy dose of the poison. After driving away Leng Ruoxue and the others, her next target would be Hui Yao. Miss Philip. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I poisoned Hui Yao, and now am helping him detoxify. May I ask what my purpose is? Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. Of course it's to please our captain, Philip said matter-of-factly. Please Big Brother Ning. Was there a need for that? Everyone knows how Big Brother Ning treats me. Do you still need me to harm Hui Yao to please him? Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly as she retorted. Ruoxue. Don't talk nonsense with her, saving Hui Yao is more important, Big Brother Ning believes you. Ning Hai said impatiently. With Brother Ning's words, I will definitely do my best. Although this poison is a little troublesome, it's not a problem for me. Leng Ruoxue said confidently. After she finished speaking, she took out an antidote pill that gave off a faint fragrance from her bracelet. Just as she was about to put it into Hui Yao's mouth, she was stopped by Fei Li. Stop. What do you want to give Hui Yao? Captain. I can't let her feed Hui Yao anything. Fei Li said nervously. She had poisoned Hui Yao so that she could be his savior. Although she didn't think that Leng Ruoxue had any way to cure Hui Yao's poison, she couldn't take any risks. Otherwise, wouldn't everything she had done be for this annoying woman? This is just an antidote pill that I casually made. Why are you so nervous? Leng Ruoxue asked in amusement. I am afraid that you'll give Hui Yao random elixirs and make its poison worse. Besides, you're still a suspect. Who knows what kind of intentions you have for giving Hui Yao the pill? Philip argued. You don't have to worry about this. Brother Ning, the master, didn't say anything, so naturally, it's not up to you, an outsider, to say anything. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. I'm just being kind. Under Ning Hai's angry glare, Philip had to take back the words he had not finished, but his beautiful eyes looked at Ning Hai with grievance. Big brother Ning. I don't know if this pill of mine can detoxify Hui Yao. Are you willing to give it a try? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Ruoxue, I already said that I believe in you. Go ahead and try. Ning Hai quickly urged. There was no alchemist in their team, so it could be said that he had placed all his hopes on Leng Ruoxue. Moreover, he was not someone who did not have good judgment. The pill that Leng Ruoxue had taken out had a brilliant surface and was filled with spiritual qi. With one look, he could tell that it was not an ordinary pill. How could he not be willing to let Leng Ruoxue give it to Hui Yao? Yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded slightly and brought the pill to Hui Yao's mouth. Hui Yao opened his mouth and ate the pill. However, after eating the pill, he closed his eyes. Looking at Hui Yao's unconscious appearance, Ning Hai was a little anxious. He quickly squatted down to check on Hui Yao's condition and was surprised to find that there seemed to be something wrong with Hui Yao. However, before he could voice his doubts, he heard Fei Li's harsh voice again. It's you. You're the one who killed Hui Yao. Captain. She killed your beastie, don't you ever let her off. Seeing that not only was Hui Yao's poison not cured, but he was even unconscious, Philip was very proud of himself. Do you really want Hui Yao to die that much? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. What do you mean? You were the one who killed Hui Yao. You said you would detoxify it, but in the end, you killed it. Philip said proudly. Although things didn't go according to his plan, the effect seemed to be unexpectedly good. Who said it's dead? Leng Ruoxue laughed mockingly. It didn't die. Then why isn't there any aura? Fei Li asked in disbelief. Hui Yao was clearly dead. This woman was definitely lying to her, trying to shirk her responsibility. Humph. In his dreams. She would not let Leng Ruoxue have her way. Would you believe me if I told you that it's brewing and advancing? Leng Ruoxue smiled calmly. Hui Yao had been stuck at the wall of advancement. Now that he had eaten the antidote that she had added, his advancement had become a matter of course. I don't believe it. How is this possible? Fei Li didn't believe Leng Ruoxue's words at all. He had never heard of anyone who could advance after eating an antidote. If that was the case, wouldn't everyone hope that they had been poisoned? However, as soon as she finished speaking, she could only watch helplessly as the laws of the world descended on Hui Yao's body. After the laws of the world disappeared, Hui Yao had officially become a rank 7 sacred divine beast from a rank 6 sacred divine beast. As Hui Yao's master, Ning Hai had naturally obtained a lot of benefits from his own sacred divine beast's advancement. Master! I've finally made a breakthrough. After Hui Yao opened his eyes, he said excitedly. When the crowd saw how lively he was, they naturally knew that the poison in his body had been cured. Instantly, many people looked at Leng Ruoxue with burning eyes. Yes, Hui Yao. Congratulations, Ning Hai saw that Hui Yao's poison was not only cured, but he had also advanced to become a level 7 sacred beast. He was happy for Hui Yao from the bottom of his heart. However, the person he wanted to thank more was Leng Ruoxue. Ruoxue. Your pills are amazing, thank you so much. Ning Hai said to Leng Ruoxue gratefully. Meanwhile, Hui Ao had also transformed into a mini eagle and jumped into Leng Ruoxu's arms, rubbing against her affectionately. Big brother Ning is too polite. I also like little Greylay, so I will do my best to save it. Leng Ruoxue said as she gently stroked Hui Ao's soft feathers. Then, she said to Hui Ao, little Gray, you are the victim. You should know best about your poisoning. Now, you tell me what exactly happened. Hui Ao nodded and began to explain. Master. I was poisoned because I ate the food that Philip brought. Hui Ao said with an aggrieved expression. Tears were still rolling in his eyes. In fact, from the intimate attitude of Hui Ao and Leng Ruoxue after he was cleared of poison, everyone knew that Hui Ao's poisoning had nothing to do with her. In addition, Hui Ao had personally said that his poisoning was related to Fei Li. The truth of the matter was suddenly clear. Philip. What else do you have to say? Ning Hai asked with a face of disappointment. Originally, he thought that Philip was just a little willful and shouldn't have any bad intentions. However, he didn't expect that Philip would dare to poison Hui Ao. This was absolutely beyond the scope of his tolerance. After all, Hui Ao could be considered as his reverse scale. Therefore, he could no longer tolerate Philip. Captain. I'm innocent, it's them. They're the ones who joined forces to frame me. Philip suppressed the anger in his heart and sobbed with tears streaming down his face. Master. How could I use my own poison to accuse others? If it wasn't for her evil intentions, I wouldn't have suffered so much pain. Hui Ao said with tears in his eyes. Actually, everyone knows that I've been eating grapes for food recently. However, Philip suddenly sent me food tonight. I naively thought that she wanted to reconcile. After all, we had some disagreements before. I didn't want Master to be put in a difficult position, so I finished the food she brought me. But I didn't expect her heart to be so vicious that she actually drugged the food. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have eaten her food. Because the food she makes is really unpalatable. After a pause, Hui Ao said in a very disdainful manner. Chapter 1452, Plentiful City, 1. Hui Ao's words and his disdainful expression made the people present quite helpless. This was because at this time, they were not sure whether they should sympathize with Hui Ao who had eaten something that was difficult to swallow or sympathize with Hui Ao who had been poisoned. Looking at Hui Ao's appearance, it was obvious that he was more concerned about the taste of the food. You're talking nonsense. How could my food be poisoned? You've eaten their food, so what right do you have to say that my food poisoned you? Fei Li shouted at the top of her lungs. She knew very well that it was useless to deny that she had given Hui Ao food. Therefore, she could only bite on Leng Ruoxue and the other two and not let go. Everyone knew that Leng Ruoxue and the other two would prepare food for Hui Ao every day. If the dead bird was poisoned after eating the food prepared by both of them, she naturally couldn't put all the blame on her. Who said I ate the food they sent? After I finished eating the food you brought, you took away the utensils to destroy the evidence. Did you see any other utensils beside me? Hui Ao asked with a faint smile. This, after being questioned by Hui Ao, Philip really started to think. When the crowd saw her like this, they were even more certain. It was obvious that Fei Li wanted to frame her, so he deliberately poisoned Hui Ao's food. However, Hui Ao only ate the food that Fei Li had sent. Therefore, it was impossible for Fei Li to hold on to Leng Ruoxue and the others. Philip. What else do you have to say? Ning Hai asked with a cold face after hearing Hui Ao's words. Captain. It really wasn't me. They're the ones who have wronged me. Philip stammered, his beautiful face full of grievance. Philip. The matter is already very clear, and you still want to quibble? Ning Hai said disappointedly. Captain. It's not that I want to quibble, I just want Hui Ao to produce evidence. It said that it did not eat other people's food, where is the evidence? Philip quickly said. Looks like you really won't shed a tear until you see your coffin. Proud ash. Since they don't believe that you didn't eat the food we prepared, then show us the evidence. You can't wrong Miss Philly. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. I won't wrong her. We beastie are the most righteous. After Hui Ao finished speaking, he pushed aside the dense branches of the giant tree behind him. Suddenly, a tree hole half the height of a person was revealed in front of everyone. In the tree hole, there was a basket. In the basket, there were several kinds of food with different colors, smells, and flavors. Although the food had gone cold, it still looked very pleasing to the eye. Those who had eaten the food sent by the grapes knew at a glance that this food was dinner made of grapes and lotus seeds, because it was exactly the same as what they had eaten. Master. After eating Philip's food, I'm not hungry anymore. Therefore, I didn't eat these food, instead, I hid them here and wanted to have supper at midnight. Now that I think about it, I'm lucky that I didn't eat them, otherwise, I would have no way to explain myself. Hui Ao said with a close call look. Philip. The food was made by Ruoxue's 2 maidservants and many people can prove it. Furthermore, these things were indeed untouched. Do you have anything else to say? Ning Hai said with a cold face. Captain. Philip still wanted to defend herself, but when she saw Ning Hai's cold expression, she couldn't say anything. Philip. Seeing that we have been together for so long, Hui Ao has also profited from this misfortune. I will not hold it against you for today's matter. However, you are not qualified to stay in my team. You sisters can leave together. Ning Hai thought for a while and said without any emotion. Captain. Don't chase me away. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Hearing that Ning Hai really wanted to drive him away, Philip was scared and begged like a weeping beauty. Captain. This matter was done by Big Sister, and it has nothing to do with me, so why must you chase me away as well? Fei Yi also said indignantly. Why would Philip do such a thing? Don't tell me you didn't know. Ning Hai asked in a cold voice. I only found out after the incident. Fei Yi knew that she could not hide it, so she lowered her head and said softly. I don't care when you found out. You knew it was Philip's doing, but you still watched her frame someone else. I can't keep you here just because of this. In my team, you can't be the most powerful, but a person's basic character can't be broken. So, my team is not suitable for you sisters. You should pack your things and leave. Ning Hai urged. He really didn't want to see this pair of sisters for another moment. Their deep schemes were really too terrifying. Captain. I know I was wrong. Fei Yi also begged with tears in her eyes, but Ning Hai was not moved at all. Seeing this, Fei Yi could only look at the others pitifully, hoping that someone could plead for her. However, everyone kept silent. Yueshi, bring some people with you to send the 2 sisters away. Ning Hai ordered and then turned back to his tent. Hurry up and pack your things. The captain has already shown mercy. Yushi said impatiently. He didn't have a good impression of the 2 sisters to begin with, and now that they had done such a thing, he couldn't wait for them to leave his team as soon as possible. However, the captain was just too kind, even asking him to bring people to send them off. Although he was a little unwilling, he couldn't disobey the captain's orders. Seeing Yu Zai's urgency and the strange looks from the others, Fei Li and Fei Yi knew that they couldn't stay here any longer, so they packed their things and left the camp. After watching them leave, Leng Ruoxue could not help but sigh. This pair of sisters was also a big problem. She had not forgotten the resentful gazes they gave her before they left. However, it was best if they did not take the initiative to provoke her. Otherwise, they would definitely be the ones who would regret it. After returning to his tent, Grape noticed that Leng Ruoxue's mood was not quite right. He could not help but ask, Miss. What's wrong? Could it be that you're afraid that the sisters will seek revenge on us? No. I just think that Big Brother Ning is too kind. People might not be grateful for his kindness. Leng Ruoxue sighed. If it was her, she would never let the two sisters leave, because she would not cause trouble for herself. However, everyone's personality was different, and she could not expect Big Brother Ning to be as cold-blooded as she was. Chapter 1453, Plentiful City, 2, Noble's son Ning is a good person. A woman like Philip would never be grateful to him. Grape said in disagreement. It's true that Brother Ning is a good person, but it's also because of his personality that the people in the team are gathered together. Otherwise, just the two sisters would cause a ruckus in the entire team. Leng Ruoshu understood. Big Brother Ning was kind-hearted, and the team's cohesion was not bad. Otherwise, this team would not have been able to last for such a long time. It was said that many of them had followed Big Brother Ning to travel everywhere for many years. Miss, didn't you always say that since we're here, we should take things as they come? Since Philip and the others have already left the group, don't think about them anymore. If they really want to take revenge, we will also protect the young lady. Lianzi, who was listening at the side, said. Ha ha ha. All right. Then I'll be counting on your protection. Leng Ruoshua smiled. After Tsuezhu and Lu Tao went into closed-door cultivation, there was no longer a housekeeper by her side. Now that there were more grapes and lotus seeds, it was as if she had returned to the days when she was with Tsuezhu and Lu Tao. She just did not know how the evildoer and the others were doing. Her disappearance must have made them very anxious, right? No. She had to find a way to return to the Divine Mainland as soon as possible, and finding her godfather was the fastest way to return to the Divine Mainland. She just didn't know if Big Brother Ning would believe her words. These days, she had been thinking about how to tell Brother Ning about her relationship with Master Ning, because she knew very well that if she didn't tell Brother Ning the truth and just asked Brother Ning to take her to the Ning family, Brother Ning would be suspicious. So, telling Brother Ning the truth was the best way. However, she also had her own worries, because her relationship with Master Ning was probably no different from a fantasy in the eyes of ordinary people. After all, the difference in identity and status between the two was too big. Don't worry, miss. We'll definitely protect the young miss. Grape and Lotus Seed promised. The next day. When Ning Hai saw Leng Ruoshue, he always wanted to say something but stopped himself. This made Leng Ruoshue a little confused. Before they set off, Leng Ruoshue had blocked Ning Hai in the tent. Big Brother Ning. Do you have something to say? Leng Ruoshue asked directly. Ruoshue. Do you think him too soft-hearted? Ning Hai thought for a while and asked. When he asked the sisters to leave yesterday, he saw Leng Ruoxu's disapproving look. This made him think about it for the whole night, but the more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. Yes. Big Brother Ning. Being kind is a good thing, but it also depends on the person. Some ingrates weren't worthy of being treated with kindness, just like the Philip sisters. They had done such a thing, and if you let them go easily, not only would they not be grateful to you, but they might even resent you for not forgiving them and not giving them a chance. When some people make a mistake, they won't look for the reason themselves, and they just happen to be that kind of people. Leng Ruoshue said bluntly. If you were me, what would you do? Ning Hai asked curiously. It'll give you a taste of your own medicine. Brother Ning, I'm a vengeful person. Unless you don't provoke me, you must be prepared for my revenge. Moreover, my revenge will be multiplied. Leng Ruoshue said with a faint smile. Seeing the surprised expression on Ning Hai's face, she knew that Ning Hai had been frightened by her words. Ha ha ha. Big Brother Ning. Don't be afraid. I'm a person who can clearly distinguish between gratitude and grudges. I won't take the initiative to bully others, but I won't let others bully me either. Leng Ruoshue quickly consoled him. Ruoshue. Actually, I quite admire your character, but I'm afraid it's very difficult for me to be like you. Ning Hai smiled bitterly. It seemed that he was not as bold as a woman in some aspects. This made him quite depressed. Big Brother Ning. One's personality is basically innate, and it can't be changed in a day. However, we have to learn from the past and not make the same mistake again. Otherwise, how can we grow up? Len Ruoxue chuckled. Yes. Ning Hai nodded. Big brother Ning. When do you plan to go back to the Ning family? Len Ruoxue took the opportunity to ask. I don't know. Maybe after a while. It might take a long time. Why? Do you have something to do? Ning Hai's eyes widened as he looked at Len Ruoxue. Big brother Ning. To tell you the truth, I actually want to go to the Ning family's main residence. Len Ruoxue spoke the truth. Since things had come to this point, she might as well tell Ning Hai her true intentions. After all, Ning Hai's character was not bad. Ruoxue. Although I don't know what you want to do at the Ning family, I can tell you that the Ning family's main residence isn't something you can enter just because you want to. As a branch family member, if there's nothing important, I'm not allowed to enter and leave the main residence. Ning Hai said very seriously. Big brother Ning, I'm going to the Ning family to find Godfather. He's a member of the Ning family, so I want him to send me back to the divine mainland. Len Ruoxue thought for a while and decided not to reveal Master Ning's identity, in case she scared Ning Hai. Your godfather is a direct descendant of the Ning family? Ning Hai's eyes were still wide open as he said in disbelief. He didn't expect Ruoxue to have such a powerful background. Her godfather was a direct descendant of the Ning family. This was really beyond his expectations. Yes. Len Ruoxue nodded. In that case, I'll take you back to the Ning family. However, I'm not sure if I can bring you into the main residence. Ning Hai thought for a while and said. It doesn't matter. Just bring me to the Ning family's main residence. After all, I'm not familiar with the divine world. It's not easy to find the Ning family's divine territory. Len Ruoxue said gloomily. The beasts were in closed-door cultivation, causing her to be unable to move an inch in the god world. This feeling was really uncomfortable. That's not a problem, Ning Hai nodded. After knowing that Len Ruoxue's godfather was from the Ning family, he felt even closer to Len Ruoxue. Big brother Ning. I was really afraid that you wouldn't believe me. Len Ruoxue was relieved when she saw that Ning Hai did not look like he did not believe her. Ruoxue. In the divine realm, he had dared to impersonate someone related to the Ning family, and he was not even born yet. So, I have to believe your words even if I don't want to. Besides, if you're lying, then after I bring you to the Ning family, you'll end up very miserable, so I'm sure you won't lie to me. Ning Hai said with confidence. Chapter 1454, Plentiful City, 3, No wonder Big Brother Ning didn't have any suspicions. Len Ruoxue understood. It seemed that she had underestimated the status of the Ning family in the divinity, as well as their confidence. However, thinking about it, Ning Hai's words made sense. After all, she had requested to go to the main residence of the Ning family. If her lie was exposed after she arrived at the main residence, the Ning family would definitely not tolerate her. Ha ha ha. It can't be fake. Even if it's fake, it can't be real. Based on my understanding of Ruoxue, you don't seem like someone who would lie to me. Ning Hai said with a smile. However, there's one thing that you've really lied to me about. Moreover, you've lied to me with Hui Ao. Ning Hai suddenly said seriously. It seems that our little trick didn't escape Big Brother Ning. However, it's true that Hui Ao was poisoned, and the drug was indeed put in by Philip. It's just that we had noticed it in advance, so we just beat him at his own game. Len Ruoxue explained calmly. Aren't you afraid that I'll blame you after I find out the truth? Ning Hai deliberately said with a straight face. Although Brother Ning is kind, he can still distinguish between the inside and outside. What's more, everything that Philip did was the truth. We did not wrong her. We just followed the script that she had arranged in advance. If Brother Ning blames us for this, we can only admit our mistakes. Len Ruoxue said with a smile. You guys. Don't do this again in the future. I was so worried. Ning Hai complained. Brother Ning doesn't blame us. Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked indifferently. What's there to blame? They were the ones who wanted to harm others, but in the end, they ended up harming themselves. Moreover, if it weren't for you, I might not have been able to make up my mind to remove the sisters from the team. Speaking of which, I should thank you. Ning Hai said softly. In fact, he knew very well that a considerable number of people in the team were dissatisfied with Philip. It was just that the Philip sisters had not made any big mistakes, so he had no reason to kick them out of the team. This incident had given him a reasonable excuse. Therefore, if he were to think about it carefully, he had to thank Leng Ruoxue and the others for their cooperation. When did Big Brother Ning find out? Leng Ruoxue was very curious. She didn't expect Ning Hai to be such a meticulous person. Everything that they had planned was still discovered by him. When Hui Ao showed us the food hidden in the tree hole, I already felt that something was wrong. Based on my understanding of Hui Ao, it was impossible for that gluttonous fellow to not be tempted by the food in front of him, let alone hide it. Ning Hai said with a smile. I see. Leng Ruoxue finally understood. Ruoxue. Let's go out. Let's get ready to set off. Ning Hai said proudly. N. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Then, the two of them left the tent and sat on Hui Ao's back. With Hui Ao carrying the group, they flew towards the nearest city. Because he was going to bring Leng Ruoxue to the Ning family, Ning Hai had to change his schedule at the last minute. After flying in the air for nearly 2 days, they arrived at Plentiful City in the evening. Plentiful City could only be considered as a small to medium-sized city in the Divine Realm. The population in the city was not very large. However, Plentiful City was exceptionally prosperous, and this had a lot to do with the geographical location of Plentiful City. Plentiful City ran from north to south, connecting east to west. It was a traffic hub city. Although it was not located in the center of the Divine Realm, many people who wanted to go to other cities would have to pass through Plentiful City. Especially for those who wanted to go to the north of the Divine Realm, Plentiful City was the only place they had to pass. If he wanted to go to the Ning family, he had to pass by Plentiful City. As they walked on the streets of Plentiful City, Leng Ruoxue listened to the grapes as she explained the history of Plentiful City to her. Originally, Plentiful City was under the jurisdiction of the God Lord's Manor. The current city lord of Plentiful City was stationed here by the God Lord's Manor. A city that could catch the attention of the God Lord's Manor must have its own special characteristics. Hence, Plentiful City's status in the Divine Realm was obvious. Ruoxue. Although Plentiful City isn't big, it has a very special status in the Divine Realm. Even our Ning family wouldn't easily offend the city lord here unless we have no other choice. Ning Hai reminded him in a low voice. Don't worry, Big Brother Ning. If others don't provoke me, I won't go and find trouble with them. Leng Ruoxue understood Ning Hai's unspoken meaning and promised with a faint smile. Ruoxue. I didn't mean it that way, I'm just afraid that your beauty will attract other people's coveting. In a while, we'll immediately find an inn to stay in. If there's nothing important before we leave, try not to leave the room. Ning Hai reminded. In the divine world, women like Leng Ruoxue, who were weak but had outstanding beauty, were the favorite targets of those who liked beauty. Moreover, this was Plentiful City, so he was very afraid that he would not be able to protect Leng Ruoxue. Thus, he could only prepare for the rainy day. I'll listen to Big Brother Ning. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she nodded. As she walked on the streets, she could feel many gazes on her. Some of them were staring at her with fiery eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't want to cause trouble, she would definitely teach them a lesson. Yes. Ning Hai nodded and looked around the street. After finding an inn with an empty room, everyone immediately checked in. In the room, Grape looked at the depressed Leng Ruoxue sitting on the bed and could not help but explain, Miss, although Noble Ning's words are a little exaggerated, he is also speaking the truth. We are out and our strength is low, so it's better to be careful. I know. Leng Ruoxue nodded. She was just missing the demon a little. She wondered how that fellow was doing now. Miss. The kitchen just sent some food over, so I'll just have a bite. We'll be leaving tomorrow morning. Lotus Seed said. Yes. Leng Ruoxua nodded and had a simple meal before going to bed early. However, not long after she fell asleep, Leng Ruoxua heard a faint sound coming from the corridor outside. She opened her eyes unwillingly and looked at Grape, who was guarding by the bedside. What's going on outside? What's with the noise? I'm fine. Miss, go to sleep. We'll be leaving tomorrow morning. Grape said hurriedly. However, his eyes were avoiding Leng Ruoxua's. Oh. Yes, Leng Ruoxua replied softly, then closed her eyes again. She knew that Grape was hiding something from her. However, since that girl was not willing to tell her, she could not force her. Feeling Leng Ruoxua's even breathing, Grape knew that Miss had fallen asleep again. After tucking her in, she turned around and left the inner room. Have the people outside left? Grape couldn't help but ask Lotus Seed, who was guarding the outer hall. They've been sent away by noble son Ning. However, they didn't manage to invite you, so they won't let this matter rest. Lotus Seed said worriedly. The people who were making a ruckus in the corridor just now were sent by the city lord to invite the young lady to the banquet, but they had blocked her. When we entered the city, it was already evening. There weren't many people in the city, so how did the city lord's mansion know about young Miss? Grape's face was puzzled. Although many people on the street had seen the beauty of the young lady, she did not think that those people would go to the city lord of Plentiful City and tell him that there was a beautiful woman in the city. Otherwise, if this beauty was occupied by the city lord's mansion, they would not have the opportunity to appreciate the beauty in the future. Stop guessing. We'll be leaving tomorrow morning anyway. Lotus Seed said with a headache. Although they had booked a room for 2 days, they would leave the next morning. The city lord's mansion should not find out about their thoughts. Don't let the young lady know about this matter, or she will be troubled. Grape reminded. I understand. Lotus Seed nodded. At this moment, Leng Ruoxua, who was in the inner room, had heard their entire conversation through Green Vessel. Qing Ju, can you check the situation in the city lord's mansion? Leng Ruoxua asked via voice transmission. Sister. I'm not strong enough right now. If I was on the godly mainland, I might be able to do it, but this is the godly realm. Qing Ju said gloomily. In the divine world, he had almost no place to use his martial arts. After all, the experts in the divine world were as numerous as the hair on a cow. If he were to casually investigate, he would definitely be discovered by them. In that case, it would bring trouble to his sister. Therefore, he did not dare to act rashly in the divine world. This kind of restricted behavior made him quite angry, but he could do nothing about it. Qing Ju. It's all Big Sister's fault for being too weak. Leng Ruoxua said guiltily. The green vessel was an extremely powerful divine weapon, but in her hands, it had not been able to display its true power. This made her feel extremely guilty. Furthermore, during this trip to the divine world, she had clearly felt the gap between her and the people of the divine world. Hence, she had made up her mind to cultivate properly when she returned to the divine mainland, so that she could strive to be able to truly experience the divine world sooner. Sister. You're very talented, it's just that you haven't been cultivating for long. However, I'm already very satisfied to be able to achieve such results in just a few years. Qing Ju consoled. Qing Ju. I'll definitely work hard on my cultivation. At that time, we'll take revenge for Master together. Leng Ruoxua promised. N. Qing Ju nodded. After conversing with Qing Ju, Leng Ruoxua lay back on the bed calmly, allowing the spiritual qi from the outside world to enter her body. The next morning, Ning Hai had knocked on Leng Ruoxua's door early in the morning. Ruoxua. We're not having breakfast, we're leaving this place immediately. Ning Hai said anxiously. All right. Leng Ruoxua nodded. After gathering the crowd, Leng Ruoxue and the rest checked out of the inn and left. However, they had only taken a few steps when they were blocked by a group of people. Looking at the fully armed group, Leng Ruoxue was well aware that they should be the city lord's residence's royal guards. The Plentiful city was indeed worthy of being under the jurisdiction of the God Lord's residence. The guards' armor had actually reached the level of divine weapons. Although they were only considered primary divine weapons, such a team composition could be considered top-notch even among the 8 great divine domains. She just did not know why they were stopping her and her group. "May I ask why you are blocking our way?" "I'm the Ning family's Ning Hai, they're all my team members." Ning Hai introduced himself. He had no choice but to use his identity as a member of the Ning family. "One of our young master's concubines is missing. Someone found a clue and said that it was you who took her away," the leader of the guards said in a clear voice. Chapter 1455, Hung Wan, 1, Big Brother Guard. "I'm afraid this is a mistake. We just entered Plentiful City last night, so we don't know any young master's concubine." He knew very well that a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. Even if the Ning family had a high status in the divine world, they could do nothing to the city lord of Plentiful City unless the Ning family wanted to fall out with the divine master. However, the divine master was the master of the divine world. If they fell out with the divine master, how could the Ning family stand in the divine world? At that time, many families would probably take the opportunity to hit him when he was down. As the saying went, a tall tree attracts the wind. The Ning family's position in the divine world was very eye-catching. If they became the divine master's enemy, the Ning family would not be able to live in peace. Therefore, the Ning family had always avoided the dogs of the divine master's estate as much as possible. They would not confront them directly. However, the current situation was obviously unavoidable. Moreover, he knew that the other party was coming for Ruoxue. Putting aside the fact that Ruoxue's godfather was not a member of the Ning family, even if Ruoxue had no relationship with the Ning family would not be able to deal with them. He couldn't just watch Ruoxue fall into the tiger's mouth. Sigh. What should he do? "Do you doubt our ability? We're the guards of the city lord's mansion, how could we be mistaken? She's the concubine that our young lord lost." The leader of the guards pointed at Leng Ruoxue and shouted. "What are you talking about? How could my family's young miss be your young master's concubine?" Upon hearing the guard leader's words, Grape was immediately enraged. This was truly a case of a tiger not showing its might, but treating it as a sick cat. This young master of Plentiful City was really too much. He couldn't do anything on the surface, so he wanted to do it in the dark. If the people of Plentiful City knew that their young lady was the lost concubine of the city lord, they could forget about leaving the city. Ha ha ha. It's useless to deny it. Not only did my young master lose a concubine, but 2 maidservants also ran away from our city lord's mansion. This is the official reward notice issued by our city lord's mansion, and everyone in Plentiful City knows about it. The guard leader laughed maniacally. After he finished speaking, he took out a yellow notice from his storage ring. The words written on it were just as the guard leader had said, and the date was actually half a month ago. In addition, the notice also had the portraits of Leng Ruoxue and the other 2. The other party's deliberate framing made Grape even angrier. The young master of Plentiful City was more like a bandit than a bandit. She and Lotus Seed were born as members of the Yin family. Now, just because of a notice, their ancestors were replaced. If the family head knew about this, he would be furious. Looking at the announcement, Leng Ruoxue smiled and said slowly, "Since I'm your young master's lost concubine, I'll go back with you." Ruoxue. Miss. Ning Hai and Grape exclaimed at the same time, their faces full of disbelief. Big brother Ning. The other party came prepared, "We can't leave. You still have so many brothers, don't drag you down because of us." Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she reminded him. Ruoxue. How can I just walk away like this? What kind of person do you think Big Brother Ning is? When Ning Hai heard Leng Ruoxiu's words, he said unhappily. However, he immediately changed his mind and said, Ruoxiu, since they've found you, you should go back with them. We'll be leaving first. Ning Hai's words made Grape and many of his brothers a little confused. Although the backing of the city lord of Plentiful City was not small, they were not people who were afraid of death. How could they let 3 weak women fall into the tiger's mouth? After all, as long as one wasn't a fool, they could tell that the official document was fake. Let's leave. Big brother guard. I'll leave the 3 of them to you. Ning Hai slightly cupped his hands and said. Then, he left Plentiful City with his brothers without looking back. Humph. You're tactful. The leader of the guards looked at the back of Ning Hai and the others and said proudly, Humph. So what if they were from the Ning family? Didn't the Ning family have to look at their faces in this Plentiful City? After feeling pleased with himself, the leader of the guards ordered his subordinates to bring Leng Ruoxiu and the other 2 back to the city lord's mansion. After returning to the city lord's mansion, the guard leader sent the 3 of them to the peony garden. This peony garden was an extremely luxurious courtyard in the city lord's mansion. It was divided into several independent small courtyards. However, although it was called peony garden, there were no various kinds of precious peonies planted in it. There were some extremely beautiful women living in it. In other words, this should be the harem of the young master of Plentiful City. In the living room where Leng Ruoxiu and the rest were staying, Grape looked at the calm and easygoing miss, and she was full of admiration. However, she didn't understand why Ning Hai suddenly changed his mind and left. She couldn't help but ask, Miss, why did young noble Ning suddenly decide to leave? I told them to leave. I told him to take the team and leave first. I have my own way to deal with this young master of Plentiful City. They will only restrain me here, so he agreed to take the team and leave. Leng Ruoxiu explained with a smile. Ah. That noble son Ning must be very depressed. Grape said with a face full of sympathy. Noble son Ning was still a divine lord. He was actually despised by the young Miss AI. This was a huge blow to him. There's no other way. Brother Ning is an upright person. If he sees me using some abnormal means, it will affect my image in his heart. Therefore, we can't let them stay here. Besides, I don't want to implicate them. Leng Ruoxiu said with a smile. Miss, what abnormal means do you intend to use? Grape's face was full of curiosity, and a trace of excitement could be seen on her beautiful face. You'll know when the time comes. Anyone who provokes me will regret it. Leng Ruoxiu laughed coldly. The cold glint in her beautiful eyes disappeared in a flash. Miss, I don't understand, how did the young master of Plentiful City know about us? He even drew our faces. Grape said gloomily. If the other party only knew the young lattice appearance, it would still be considered normal. However, he even knew her and Lotus Seed's appearance. Wasn't this too strange? Of course, someone betrayed us. Leng Ruoxiu said indifferently. You betrayed us. However, we haven't been away from the Yin family for long, so how could we have the opportunity to offend anyone? Grape frowned as he thought, but he could not understand. Chapter 1456, Hung Wan, 2, Of course we have the chance to offend others. Leng Ruoxiu laughed coldly and said expressionlessly. Arg! Could it be Philip and the others? Upon hearing Leng Ruoxiu's reminder, Grape suddenly thought of them. It seemed that during the time when they were away from the Yin family, they had not provoked anyone other than the 2 sisters. Miss, if they really did betray us, I will not let them off. Lotus Seed, who had been silent all this time, suddenly interrupted. Don't let them off. Grape also echoed. Calm down. We'll find out what's going on very soon. Leng Ruoxiu consoled. The arrival of Leng Ruoxiu and the other 2 was like a bomb that exploded in the peony garden. This was because the courtyard that the 3 of them were staying in was the best in the peony garden. It was also something that many women in the peony garden wanted. Now that it was easily owned by a new woman, there were immediately people who felt that it was unfair. Hence, not long after Leng Ruoxue and the other two arrived, someone came to pay them a visit. Leng Ruoxue sat on the main seat in the living room and looked at the ladies sitting below her. Many of these ladies had unfriendly expressions on their faces, and it was obvious that they were here to pick a fight. There were also some ladies who had probing and curiosity on their faces, but there were very few of them. However, what made her curious was that even though there was a lady who had come with them, that lady did not have any expression on her face. She even seemed to have heaved a sigh of relief after seeing Leng Ruoxue. This made Leng Ruoxue curious about her. Not only that, but the woman was also the most beautiful one among them. She was also a god-tier master. "You're new here." After sizing each other up for a long time, one of the women spoke indifferently. Moreover, her arrogant tone made people feel extremely uncomfortable. "What do you mean by new?" Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. "You came later than us, so we'll call you the newcomer." The woman explained. "Oh. Then I'll be considered a newcomer." Leng Ruoxue said helplessly, even though she did not like the word newcomer. "Since you're new, you should understand the rules of our peony garden. I'm the boss of Peony Garden, so you have to listen to me in the future." The woman shouted. "You're the boss here?" Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes sized up the woman who had spoken. This woman could be considered a beauty, but she was covered in jewels and pearls, making her look even more vulgar. "Of course. I'm the most favored concubine of the young master. The young master has ordered me to manage you well, so you must all listen to me," the woman said proudly as if she was of a higher status than others. When Leng Ruoxue heard her words, she was speechless. From her perspective, no matter how much she doted on her concubine, she was still just a concubine. Since she was just a concubine, what was there to be proud of? She felt that this woman had lost her sense of self. It could even be said that she was used to being kept in captivity. "You are your young master's concubine, but I am not. So, you only need to manage them well. As for me, you don't need to worry about me," Leng Ruoxue replied emotionlessly. She knew that the status of a woman in the firmament was not as high as a man's. However, it was rare to see such self-deprecating behavior, right? Once you enter the peony garden, you will become the young master's concubine sooner or later. Don't think that you can ride on my head just because you're pretty, let me tell you. No way. When the woman heard Leng Ruoxue's words, she retorted angrily. She had brought her men here to give Leng Ruoxue a taste of her might, but who knew that not only was she not afraid, she even looked down on her. This made her feel that her position had been seriously challenged, so she was furious. "Who told you that entering this peony garden would definitely make you the concubine of Plentiful City's young master? I'm here to look around, can't I?" Leng Ruoxue said in an infuriating manner. "Tour? What kind of place do you think the city lord's mansion is? Do you think you can come and go as you please? Once you've entered the city lord's mansion, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." The woman reminded him proudly. "Those who walk different paths can't make plans together. If there's nothing important, please leave. I won't be sending you off." Leng Ruoxue immediately gave the order to leave. After she finished speaking, she did not even look at the ladies present before turning around and returning to her room. "Everyone, please leave. My family's young miss is going to rest." Grape sneered and drove him away. All the women looked at each other and felt embarrassed. They stood up and left reluctantly. However, one woman did not leave with the others. "Why are you still here?" Grape looked at the woman who was still sitting on the chair and asked in confusion. "I would like to meet your young lady alone," the woman said. "My young miss is going to rest. She doesn't have time to see you now," Grape said unhappily. She had never had a good impression of these women who were willing to be concubines and even jealous of the same man. "I really have something important to do. Let me see her," the woman begged. All right then. You can go into the inner room to see Miss. Grape agreed. The reason why she allowed this woman to enter the inner chamber was because the young lady had just sent her a voice transmission, saying that she wanted this woman to enter. The woman walked into the inner room and looked at Leng Ruoxue, who was sitting on the chair. She felt a little uneasy. Please take a seat. Leng Ruoxue looked at the woman indifferently. Thank you. The woman randomly found a chair and sat down. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't like to beat around the bush. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. I know you're like me, captured by the young master of Plentiful City. After a long time, the woman finally spoke. So what? Leng Ruoxue replied nonchalantly as she waited for the woman to continue. She believed that this woman would not say such things for no reason. Since this woman was willing to say these things to her, she must have a request. She didn't think that she was the savior of the world, so she wouldn't share the same hatred with this woman after hearing that she had suffered the same fate. I mean we can work together to escape from here. The woman saw that Leng Ruoxue did not go along with what she had said, so she could only state her intention. Escape from this place. Do you think that you, a god-tier master, and I, a mid-level deity, can leave the city lord's mansion that is heavily guarded? I'm afraid that before we can leave Plentiful City, we will be caught and brought back. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Chapter 1457, Hong Wan, 3, I know, but I really need an ally. I don't want to stay here anymore. I don't want to be someone else's toy. The woman had tears in her eyes. If it were any man, they would have shown her a pitiful expression. However, it was a pity that she was facing Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue would naturally not show her any pity. I can understand your feelings, but with just the two of us weak women, how can we leave this place? Leng Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly. My fiancé is locked up in the city lord's mansion's prison by Liao Yang. He has the strength of a monarch god, so as long as you help me save him, he will definitely be able to take us out of Plentiful City. The woman hurriedly said. Are you kidding me? Even as a divine lord, he was locked up in a cell and unable to escape. If he were to bring along a few women who are holding him back, are you sure he would be able to escape? Leng Ruoxue asked in disbelief. Liao Yang is the young master of Plentiful City. He is a very lecherous man and likes beautiful women the most. Once, he met me on the street and sent people to capture me and bring me into the city lord mansion. My fiancé fell into the trap because he wanted to save me. The woman said with a sad expression. I'm sorry. I can't help you. After hearing the woman's explanation, Leng Ruoxue still refused. This was because there was no way she would believe this woman's words. If I tell you who we are, will you be willing to help me? The woman hesitated for a moment before she raised her head and stared at Leng Ruoxue. I don't know. It depends on whether your identity can move me. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Yes. The woman nodded and slowly said, actually, my fiancé and I are not humans. My name is Hong Wan, a plant-type red iris flower. My fiancé is a green wolf that is good at burrowing underground. We originally lived in the forest without any worries. If it wasn't for the perfect wedding for me, we wouldn't have left the forest and come to the human world. However, we didn't expect to bring ourselves such an unexpected disaster. Hua. After hearing Hong Wan's words, Leng Ruoxue asked in surprise. She couldn't tell at all that this beautiful and elegant lady in front of her wasn't a human. However, she seemed to have seen a pair of love between a plant and an animal-type beast before. They were her parents, but their ending wasn't satisfactory. Yes. Hong Yuan nodded. In order to gain Leng Ruoxue's trust, she had even transformed back into her original form. Looking at the huge red-colored violet milvus bloom in front of her, Leng Ruoxue completely believed Hong Yuan's words. However, it was one thing for her to not discover the woman's true identity, but why did Qing Ju not discover it as well? This made her a little confused. Sister. The innate ability of the violet meteorite clan is to hide their own attributes, because the violet meteorite is not an extremely powerful plant-type beast, but their pollen can cause people to hallucinate, and is the main material for making hallucinatory pills. In order to protect themselves, they usually use their innate ability to hide their plant characteristics. This way, even a supreme god will not be able to detect it, and will only think that they are human. Sensing Leng Ruoxia's thoughts, Qing Ju hurriedly explained. Oh. Leng Ruoxia nodded her head slightly. At this moment, Hong Luan had transformed back into her human form. You. Can you help me? Hong Luan asked expectantly. I'm only a mid-level deity, do you think I can help you? Leng Ruoxia asked instead of answering. Yes, Liao Yang is very perverted. As long as you are willing to sacrifice your body, we will definitely succeed. Hong Ling couldn't help but remind him. After hearing Hong Luan's words, Leng Ruoxia's forehead was filled with black lines. She had always thought that beasts were pure, and plant-type beasts were as pure as a piece of white paper. However, this little flower in front of her actually incited her to sacrifice her body. What was this? You have a pretty face too, why don't you sacrifice yourself? Leng Ruoxia could not help but ask. I can't do it alone, I need someone to cooperate. What I mean is, you think of a way to seduce him, and then drug him. Well, cooperate from the inside and rescue Brother Qing, and then let Brother Qing take us out of here. What do you think? Hong Ling asked expectantly. Ah. Not much. Leng Ruoxia looked at Hong Luan, who was as pure as water, and could not help but sigh in her heart. That young master of Plentiful City was really nothing. She had actually forced a little flower into a poisonous flower that was the most vicious of all. What's not good? You can tell us and we'll change it. Hong Luan hurriedly said. After all, it wasn't easy to find an ally here, so she really didn't want to lose Leng Ruoxia, a rare ally. I want to know, what kind of drug do you want to drug the young city lord? Leng Ruoxia asked curiously. Actually, it's not really medicine. It's my pollen. It can make him hallucinate and think that he has an intimate relationship with us. However, Liao Yang is a person who likes the new and abandons the old. He has come to find me several times, and I have naturally drugged him several times. Therefore, he has lost interest in me, but I have never been able to get him. Hong Ling said with some regret. Why did you not succeed? The effect is too short. Leng Ruoxia asked again. No. There are many people protecting Liao Yang, so even if I steal his token, it will be difficult for me to leave the room. Once he wakes up, I won't be able to take his token to the prison to rescue Brother Qing, so I need someone to cooperate with me. Hong Luan explained. What you mean is, I seduced the young city lord in the room, stole his token, and then you took the token to the prison to save people. Leng Ruoxia confirmed. Yes, we need someone to cooperate with us. We have to do it at the same time. We can't be discovered. Hong Ling reminded. It's not that I can't cooperate with you, but what if you run away after saving them and leave me here? Leng Ruoxia asked, pretending to be worried. We beastie always keep our word, we won't be as untrustworthy as humans. Hong Yuan promised with a huff.